Hello there, and welcome to the Reddit Slumber. If you're looking for a cozy place to unwind and let your mind wander, you've found it. We're back with another collection of stories to help you gently wind down. As always, if you enjoy our time together, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Pull the covers up, take a deep breath, and let's dive straight into the stories. Story 1.
When I married Clara, I knew her sister Chloe was part of the deal. It was a package deal, a 2-for-1, and I was okay with that. Genuinely. Clara had practically raised Chloe after their mom passed away, stepping into a maternal role when she was barely out of her teens herself. It was one of the things I loved about her, that fierce, unwavering loyalty. Chloe is 20 now. She has a neurological condition that affects her coordination and sometimes makes social situations awkward. It's not severe, but it's there. A constant background hum to her life. In the beginning, I saw her through Clara's eyes, a sweet, slightly fragile girl who just needed a little extra help navigating the world. So when we'd go out for dinner and Chloe would join, I'd pick up the tab without a second thought. When her laptop died, we replaced it. It was just what you did for family. The shift was gradual. It started around the time Chloe turned 19 and decided college wasn't for her. "I'm going to be a freelance graphic designer," she announced one night over a pizza I was paying for. "I've got clients lining up already." Clara beamed, her face glowing with pride. "That's amazing, Chloe. We're so proud of you." I was supportive too. It sounded like a great plan. But the clients were always just about to pay. The big projects were always just around the corner. A year went by. Chloe still lived at home with her dad, but she was at our apartment constantly. She ate our food, used our Wi-Fi, and talked a big game about her booming career, yet I never saw a single dollar from it. The first real crack appeared on my birthday. We went out to a steakhouse, my choice. Chloe ordered the lobster tail add-on without blinking. When the bill came, she was deep in her phone scrolling through Instagram. Clara just slid the check over to my side of the table. "So, what'd you get me?" I asked Chloe, trying to keep it light. She looked up, a little startled, as if the thought had just occurred to her. "Oh shoot. It's coming tomorrow. Amazon delivery is so slow right now." It never came. Clara bought me a watch from both of them 2 days later. Chloe chipped in, she said, but her eyes wouldn't quite meet mine. I knew she was covering for her. I let it go. But it kept happening. She'd ask to borrow $20 for gas and never pay it back. She'd come over for movie night and ask what we were ordering for dinner, as if her inclusion in our payment were a given. She even started forwarding us her medical bills, specialist co-pays, prescription costs. My insurance is crap, she'd text Clara, and Clara would immediately Zelle her the money from our joint account. "Babe," I said one night, scrolling through our bank statement, "we spent almost $400 on Chloe last month. Not including the dinners." Clara got defensive instantly. "She needs it, Mateo. Her condition isn't cheap to manage, and she's just getting her business off the ground." "Is she, though?" I asked, a little sharper than I intended. "Because I haven't seen any evidence of it." "Does she ever show you any of her work or any invoices?" "She doesn't have to prove anything to you," Clara snapped. "She's my sister. We take care of her." That was the end of the conversation. "We take care of her" became Clara's trump card, the conversation killer she'd pull out whenever I got close to questioning the one-way flow of cash out of our account and into Chloe's life. I resented it, but I loved my wife, and I knew how deep her bond with her sister ran. So I bit my tongue and worked a little more overtime. Then, Clara got pregnant. Everything changed. The world snapped into a terrifyingly sharp focus. It wasn't about us anymore. It was about our daughter. Our future. My future, specifically as the sole provider, while Clara was on unpaid maternity leave. I started seeing every dollar with new eyes. A $30 dinner for Chloe wasn't just a dinner. It was a box of diapers. The $150 for her urgent car repair wasn't a repair. It was a week's worth of formula. The money we were pouring into her black hole of a life was money being siphoned directly from my daughters. The day our baby Sophia was born was the best day of my life. Holding her, this tiny, perfect person who depended on me for everything, I felt a switch flip in my soul. A primal protective instinct I never knew I had roared to life. My family was now me, Clara, and this little girl. Everyone else was outside the circle. Chloe came to the hospital, of course. She held Sophia for a minute, took a bunch of selfies, and then started telling Clara about a concert she wanted to go to next month. The tickets are like $200, she sighed. It's insane. I don't know how I'm going to swing it. She looked right at Clara. A pointed, expectant look. I saw Clara, exhausted and hormonal but still in default big sister mode, open her mouth to say, "Don't worry, we'll figure it out." "No," I said, stepping between them. My voice was quiet but hard. "You can't afford it, so you can't go." The silence in the room was deafening. Chloe looked at me like I'd just slapped her. Clara's eyes flashed with anger. It was the first time I'd ever drawn a hard line, and nobody liked it. That feeling, that simmering rage, just grew. We were 2 weeks in. I was barely sleeping, working from home with a crying baby in the next room and stressing about the mortgage. We were living paycheck to paycheck for the first time in our lives. Every grocery run was a tightrope walk. In my mind, Chloe transformed. She was no longer the sweet girl with a disability. She was a leech. A 20-year-old freeloader who'd been coddled into a state of permanent helplessness by the one person I needed on my team. Last night, Clara was trying to soothe a screaming Sophia, rocking her back and forth, her face a mask of exhaustion. Her phone buzzed on the counter. It was a text from Chloe. I was right there. I couldn't help but see it. It was a link to a brand new top-of-the-line MacBook Pro. The $1,000 one. Underneath the message read times. "My laptop is being so slow I can't get any work done. Can we get this? I need it for that big Australian client project." Asterisk. I watched Clara's face. I saw the conflict, the exhaustion, and then the familiar heartbreaking resignation. She typed back times. "Let me talk to Mateo. We'll figure something out." Asterisk. That was it. That was the moment something in me broke. The calm, rational part of my brain just shut off, replaced by white-hot fury. She was going to do it. Even now, with our daughter in her arms and our finances in shambles, she was going to find a way to give her sister another $1,000 handout. I watched her put the phone down and turn her attention back to Sophia, humming a soft lullaby. My heart was pounding a war drum against my ribs. I stood there for a long moment, the screen of her phone glowing on the dark granite countertop. Then I took a deep breath. "Clara," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "Put the baby in her crib. We need to talk, now." Clara's shoulders tensed. She clutched Sophia a little tighter, her back still to me. "She's almost asleep, Mateo. Can't this wait?" "No," I said, my voice leaving no room for argument. "It can't. Put her down." She shot me a look over her shoulder, a mixture of defiance and exhaustion. For a second, I thought she was going to refuse. But then she saw my face. She must have seen that the calm, reasonable husband she knew was gone, replaced by a stranger standing in our kitchen. Wordlessly, she walked into the nursery. I heard the soft click of the door. When she returned, her arms were crossed over her chest. "What? What?" Was so important it couldn't wait. I picked up her phone from the counter and held it up. The message from Chloe was still glowing on the screen. This. $1,000 laptop for her big Australian client. Are you kidding me? Her jaw tightened. She needs it for work, Mateo. Her current one is old. What work, Clara? The question exploded out of me louder than I intended. The imaginary work. The freelance career that hasn't produced a single paycheck in over a year. When are you going to wake up? You're not helping her. You're crippling her. And she's pulling us down with her. That is not fair, she cried, her voice cracking. She has a disability. Things are harder for her. I thought you understood that. I do understand it, I shot back, stepping closer. What I don't understand is why her disability means she's entitled to my paycheck. To Sophia's future. We are barely making it, Clara. I'm looking at our budget every single night trying to figure out how to stretch it another week. And you're ready to drop $1,000 on a brand new toy for your sister so she can continue to pretend to be a graphic designer. It's not a toy, it's an investment in her future. It's a lie, I yelled, slamming my hand down on the counter. The sound echoed in the small kitchen. It's all a lie. She's not a freelancer. She's a professional freeloader, and you're her number one enabler. Tears welled in Clara's eyes. How can you say that? She's my sister. My sweet sister. The word sweet was like a lit match on gasoline. Sweet. She's a leech, Clara. A 20-year-old parasite who has learned that all she has to do is sigh about how expensive something is, and her big sister will swoop in and pay for it with her husband's money. My husband, she spat her tears, turning to anger. It was our money. No. It's my times money now. I'm the only one earning it, remember. While you're on leave, every single dollar that comes into this house comes from me breaking my back, staying up until 2 a.m, stressing about clients and deadlines, all to support my family. And my family is you and Sophia. Not your deadbeat sister. The word hung in the air between us, ugly and final. Clara flinched as if I'd hit her. Her face crumpled. I can't believe you're saying this. I can't believe you're this person. I can't believe you're this blind, I retorted, my voice dropping to a low, cold growl. This stops. All of it. It stops tonight. What are you going to do? She asked, her voice a trembling whisper. Ban her from the house. You can't do that. No. Something much more effective. I took a deep breath, the ultimatum, solidifying in my mind a terrible necessary weapon. You have a choice. Tomorrow, you are going to call Chloe. You are going to tell her the bank is closed. No more money. No more laptops, no more concert tickets, no more covering her bills. You are going to tell her that she is 20 years old and it's time she figured out how to support herself. You tell her to get a real job. Clara stared at me, her mouth slightly open in disbelief. I can't do that to her. It would crush her. Then I'll make the choice for you, I said, the words feeling like ice in my own mouth. If you don't do that, then I'm going to the bank tomorrow morning. I'm taking your name off our joint checking account. I'll open a separate account for you and transfer an allowance for groceries and baby supplies every week. That's it. When you go back to work and start earning your own paycheck again, you can do whatever the hell you want with it. But as long as it's my money supporting this family, not one more cent goes to her. The silence that followed was absolute. It was heavier and more profound than any shouting. Clara's face went from shocked to wounded to utterly devastated. The color drained from her cheeks. She looked at me not as her husband, but as a monster. An allowance, she whispered, the word itself, a poison. You would put me, your wife, the mother of your child, on a times allowance. Times, like a teenager. If that's what it takes to protect our daughter, yes, I said, my heart hammering against my ribs. I felt sick, but I couldn't back down. This was the line. This isn't about protecting Sophia, she said, her voice shaking with a rage so deep it was almost quiet. This is about control. This is about punishing me because you hate my sister. I don't hate your sister, I lied, because in that moment I think I did. I hate what she's doing to us, to you. No. This is you, Mateo. This is all you. She took a shaky step back as if she couldn't stand to be near me. You just threatened to take away my financial freedom 2 weeks after I gave birth to your child. Do you have any idea what you just did? I knew. It was a catastrophic move, a button you can't unpress. But the dam of my resentment had broken, and this was the flood. In my mind, it was a necessary evil. Chloe needed a shock to the system, and Clara needed to be wrenched from her orbit. It was tough love. It was survival. Clara just stared at me for another long moment, her eyes filled with a kind of betrayal I'd never seen before. Then, without another word, she turned and walked into our bedroom, closing the door softly behind her. It wasn't a slam. A slam would have meant there was still fire. The soft click was something worse. It was an ending. I stood alone in the kitchen, the silence buzzing in my ears. I looked at the phone on the counter at the picture of a ridiculously expensive laptop. Such a small thing to detonate a marriage. From the nursery, I heard Sophia begin to fuss a low whimper that quickly escalated into a cry. A few seconds later, I heard the bedroom door open and close, followed by Clara's soft footsteps heading to the nursery. She was going to our daughter. And I was out here completely alone, the enemy in my own home. I sank onto a kitchen stool, burying my head in my hands, listening to the muffled sound of my wife soothing our child, and I had never felt so right and so terribly catastrophically wrong in my entire life.
Story 2.
My mother, an artist to her core, saw life as a canvas. Her final project wasn't paint and clay. It was us. Her children. She'd named my siblings and me with a deliberate, almost obsessive poetry, Liam, Olivia, Violet. L-O-V. She died before she could complete her masterpiece, before she could find her E. "You finish it for me, baby," she'd whispered, her hand a skeletal weight on my swollen belly. Her eyes clouded with morphine still held that creative fire. Find the E. It has to be one of mine. A grandchild. My blood. A promise made in a sterile beeping room is a promise etched in stone. So when I found out I was having a girl, it felt like destiny. A sign from Mom. The legacy would be safe. I was 6 months along when my sister Liv called. Her voice was tight, a wire pulled taut. "Are you sitting down?" she asked. "Liv, I'm perpetually sitting down." "What's wrong?" I rubbed a hand over my stomach, a subconscious gesture of protection. "Dad and Bethany are having a baby." The air left my lungs in a silent rush. Dad. And Bethany. My mother's nurse. The woman he'd been sleeping with while Mom's masterpiece of a life was fading to gray in the next room. They'd gotten married 6 months after the funeral, a move so grotesque it felt like a slap. "Oh" was all I could manage. My throat closed up. When? "She's about 4 months along. Just announced it on Facebook." Liv's sigh was pure static. "That's not the worst part, Clara." I waited. The silence stretched, filled with the hum of my refrigerator and the frantic thumping of my own heart. "They're planning on naming it with an E name," Liv finally spit out. "To complete Mom's legacy and honor her memory." The phone felt slick in my hand. I gripped it tighter. "They what?" "You heard me. Bethany posted this whole saccharine novel about how she always admired Mom's artistry and wants to give Dad the gift of completing her LOVE vision." A hot, acidic wave of rage surged up my throat. Bethany, who used to bring my mother lukewarm tea and steal my father's glances over the sickbed. Bethany, who wore a pair of my mother's earrings to the wedding. Asterisk. That times Bethany was going to honor my mother. It's a performance, Clara, the whole thing. She's trying to erase Mom. "He can't," I said, my voice shaking. "He can't let her do that. Mom told me. She told me times. I times had to do it. One of us. Her blood. Try telling him that." I did. He said it's beautiful that all 4 LOVE children will be siblings all in the same generation. He said it's what Mom would have wanted. Mom would have set his car on fire, I snapped. Liv let out a bitter laugh. "You know it. I know it. But But Dad's living in some fantasy land where his affair was a tragic romance, and Bethany is his reward for being a grieving widower. My apartment, usually a sunny, hopeful space filled with baby gear and half-finished nursery projects, suddenly felt like a cage. The little stuffed elephant on the rocking chair seemed to be mocking me. This wasn't just about a name anymore. It was a heist. They were stealing my mother's final wish, twisting it into a monument for their own tawdry affair. She's not family. Clara Liv's voice was low and fierce. She's the woman who sat in our kitchen drinking our coffee, while Mom was upstairs forgetting our names. Don't you let her take this. I won't. The words were a vow. Later that day, a text message lit up my phone. It was from Bethany. My thumbs hovered over the screen, trembling with a mixture of anger and dread. Asterisk, Clara honey. Just heard the most wonderful news from your dad that you're having a girl too. Isn't it a sign? 2 new little angels to heal our family. I know how much you wanted to use an E name for your mom, but I hope you understand why it's so important for your father that this baby, his child, completes the set. It would mean the world to him. We can find another beautiful name for your little one together. Maybe one that honors me. Let's be a family again. Asterisk. The winky face emoji was a digital shiv to the ribs. Asterisk. Honors me times. The audacity was breathtaking. She wasn't just stealing the name. She was asking me to hand it over with a smile and thank her for the privilege. This wasn't about honoring Mom. This was about replacing her. Staking a claim, Bethany wasn't just marrying my father. She was trying to colonize our family history, planting her flag right on top of my mother's grave. I screenshotted the text and sent it to Liv without comment. Her reply was instantaneous. Asterisk. That manipulative witch. Asterisk. Followed by asterisk. What are you going to do, asterisk? I stared at my reflection in the dark phone screen. My face was pale, my eyes hard. The promise I made to my mother echoed in my head, no longer a whisper, but a battle cry. This wasn't a request. It was her last will and testament. I pushed myself off the couch, my movements stiff with resolve. I grabbed my purse, my keys. The casual tone, the winking emoji, the disingenuous plea for unity, it all clicked into place. This was a declaration of war. And she had underestimated her enemy. I had to see him. I had to look my father in the eye and make him understand what he was about to destroy. The engine was off, but my hands were still clenched around the steering wheel, knuckles white. I was parked across the street from my mother's house. My house. Now it was just his house. Bethany's house. Through the big picture window, the one Mom always filled with stained glass birds she'd made, I could see the flat, sterile glow of a television. I didn't call first. I just walked up the stone path, my key sliding into the lock with a familiar grating sound. They didn't even change the locks. The sheer arrogance of it. They were on the couch, my dad's arm slung around Bethany's shoulders. She was wearing one of his old flannel shirts, a detail so domestically cloying it made my teeth ache. They both looked up, startled. Clara, my dad said, getting to his feet. What are you doing here? You should have called. This is still my house, isn't it? I asked, my voice flat. I looked at Bethany, whose hand had gone instinctively to her own small, neat bump. I got your text. The one with the winky face. Bethany flushed a blotchy, unattractive red. I was just trying to reach out. To smooth things over. There's nothing to smooth, I said, turning my full attention to my father. You know what Mom asked me to do? You were in the room. He ran a hand through his thinning hair, a gesture of exasperation I'd known my whole life. Clara, don't be dramatic. We talked about this. It's a beautiful tribute. All 4 of them, siblings. It's poetic. It's a lie. I shot back the words like stones in my mouth. Mom's poetry was about times bloodline, her children and her children's children, not her replacements. The word replacement hung in the air. Dad flinched. Bethany, however, saw her opening. She stood up, her face a carefully constructed mask of gentle concern. Clara, I know this is hard for you, she began, her voice dripping with faux empathy. I loved your mother too. I admired her so much. All I want is to honor her and make your father happy. I know she would want him to be happy. She took a step towards me. Please don't take this from him. Let him have this one thing. It would help him heal. That was it. The breaking point. The disingenuous plea. Using my mother's memory as a shield for her own conquest. A hot white rage, pure and clean, sliced through my grief. You don't get to say her name, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. And you don't get to decide what she would have wanted. You're the nurse who slept with a patient's husband. That's all you'll ever be in this story. My father's face went dark. That's enough, Clara. Apologize to Bethany. No. I looked from his face to hers, this woman who was colonizing my life. And I felt nothing but the cold certainty of a general before a battle. I'm not giving you the name. It's mine. It was promised to me. I turned and walked out, not waiting for a response. The lock clicking shut behind me sounded like a starting pistol. 2 weeks later, Liv called breathless. You are not going to believe this. Try me. I was folding a tiny onesie in my back, protesting with every movement. Aunt Carol. You know how she talks to everyone. She was on the phone with Dad's sister, and apparently Bethany had her big 20-week scan. Liv paused for dramatic effect. It's a girl. I stopped folding. What? Yup. They were so sure it was a boy. Dad had been telling everyone they were going with Elliot. They're scrambling now. They don't have a girl's E name picked out. A slow, audacious smile spread across my face. My own due date was a ticking clock just over 2 weeks away. But they were back at square one. It was a gift. An opening. My mother, from wherever she was, had just handed me a tactical advantage. They just lost their head start, I murmured. What was that, Liv asked. Nothing. Hey, Liv, I think I'm having a contraction. My daughter was born 36 hours later, a furious, beautiful little thing with a full head of dark hair just like my mom's. She arrived in a whirlwind 2 weeks early as if she knew she was on a deadline. When the nurse came in with the paperwork, I didn't hesitate. I wrote her name in firm, clear letters, my hand steady for the first time in months. Elise. Lova. I texted a picture to a group chat with my dad and Liv. Just the photo, no caption. My tiny girl swaddled in a hospital blanket. Complete. Liv's reply was a string of heart emojis. My father's came 10 minutes later. It was a private message. Asterisk. How could you? You did this on purpose. You stole this from your mother, from all of us. You took her beautiful legacy and made it about your own petty, childish anger. Asterisk. The words were meant to hurt, to curdle my joy. But looking at Elise sleeping on my chest, I felt a profound sense of peace. I hadn't stolen anything. I had reclaimed what was ours. I'd kept my promise. The real fallout began the next day. Aunts and uncles from my dad's side started texting, calling me selfish, disrespectful, a witch who couldn't stand to see her father happy. I ignored them all. Then, Bethany went public. She posted a black and white, artfully filtered photo of her ultrasound print. The caption was a masterpiece of passive-aggressive warfare. Asterisk. Sometimes the most beautiful art takes a little longer to finish. We've been blessed with a little girl, and we've decided to take our time to find the perfect name to complete a very special family legacy. Patience is a virtue. The real E-Baby is on her way to bring our family the healing it deserves. Number 4 is love. Number family legacy. Number honoring her memory. Asterisk. The comments section was a cesspool. Sympathy poured in for the poor grieving widower and his angelic new wife whose beautiful tribute had been sabotaged by a bitter, jealous daughter. People who had known me my entire life were liking the post, leaving comments about how disappointed my mother would be in me. My phone buzzed relentlessly. Liv was sending me screenshots, her own furious comments lost in the sycophantic flood. It was a coordinated attack, a public shaming. They were rewriting the narrative, painting me as the villain who had desecrated her own mother's memory. I sat in the dim light of the nursery, the blue glow of my phone illuminating Elisa's sleeping face. The stress was a physical weight pressing down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. The victory felt hollow, the peace shattered. Was it worth it? Was this vicious public war worth a name on a birth certificate? My daughter stirred her tiny hand wrapping around my finger. Her grip was surprisingly strong. I looked down at her at this perfect final piece of my mother's masterpiece. This wasn't just a name. This was a promise. This was Mom's last stand. And she'd chosen me as her soldier. Bethany's post was still open on my screen. Asterisk. The real E-Baby is on her way. Asterisk. A cold, hard resolve settled in my bones, replacing the anxiety. They wanted a war, fine. They had forgotten one crucial detail. My mother wasn't just an artist. She was a fighter. And I was without a doubt her daughter.
Story 3.
Please, Lisa. It would mean the world to me. My brother John had his puppy dog eyes on full blast. The ones he'd used to get out of trouble since he was 6. We were sitting in my small apartment, the scent of fresh paint still hanging in the air from my weekend project, and he was dropping a bomb on my wedding plans. John, I already have 5 bridesmaids, I said, trying to keep my voice even. My childhood best friends. My cousin, my fiance's sister. The numbers are perfect. So what's one more? For me, Sarah feels left out. Sarah. Of course. His girlfriend of 2 years. The human equivalent of a designer handbag, expensive, a little stiff, and mainly for show. I couldn't stand her. And the feeling I knew was mutual. The last time I saw her, she'd spotted my reusable grocery bags from Walmart in the backseat of my car and smirked. "Oh, Lisa," she'd said, her voice dripping with pity. "You're so practical." It wasn't a compliment. But this was my brother. My only sibling. I could see the desperation in his eyes, the frantic hope that the 2 most important women in his life could just pretend to get along for my sake. I sighed, a long, drawn-out sound of defeat. Fine. She can be a bridesmaid. But John, she has to actually be times a bridesmaid. She has to show up, wear the dress, and not make everything about her. His face lit up. She will, I promise. Thank you, Lisa. You won't regret this. Spoiler alert, I would. My maid of honor, Chloe, was a saint. She added Sarah to the bridesmaids group chat without a single complaint, though I knew she felt the same way I did. The chat, Lisa's last fling, immediately blew up with excited messages. We were heading to Miami for a long weekend, and the girls were already planning. Chloe, being the organizational wizard she is, laid out the plan for the final night. Chloe, okay ladies, final night dinner details. We're going to a super chic place on the water, so let's get glam. I'm thinking a group photo theme. Everyone wear pink. Any shade, any style, just make it pink so we look like a cohesive, fabulous squad for Lisa. The chat erupted. Jenna OMG love. I have the perfect hot pink dress. Maria? Found a rose gold sequin number? Does that count? Chloe, yes, rose gold is perfect. I watched the screen waiting. Then Sarah's little text bubble appeared. Sarah, cute idea, Chloe. Very bubblegum. I rolled my eyes so hard I think I saw my own brain. Classic Sarah. A backhanded compliment wrapped in a dismissive little bow. But then she followed it up. Sarah, Jenna, that dress sounds amazing. Is it the one from Revolve That? Jenna. Yes. How did you know? Sarah, I have it in black. You'll look stunning. There it was. Undeniable proof. She saw the memo. She engaged with the memo. She knew the damn dress code was pink. I screenshotted the exchange, a knot of unease tightening in my stomach. I didn't know why I did it, just a gut feeling that I'd need it later. The first 2 days in Miami were fine. Tense, but fine. Sarah mostly kept to herself, scrolling on her phone by the pool while the rest of us laughed and shared stories. She made little digs here and there, commenting on how my swimsuit was a brave choice and asking if the cheap rosé we were drinking was giving anyone else a headache. We all just ignored her, determined to not let her ruin the vibe. Then came the final night. The big dinner. We were all in our hotel suite, a tornado of hairspray, makeup palettes, and of course pink dresses. Jenna was in her hot pink mini, Maria was sparkling in rose gold, and Chloe looked incredible in a silky fuchsia slip. I'd chosen a soft blush pink gown that made me feel, for the first time in a while, like a bride. We were all giddy, taking selfies and blasting music when a text came through on the group chat. It was from Sarah. Sarah, hey girls, so sorry. A last-minute work emergency just came up. I have to hop on a call. I'll meet you at the restaurant, but I'm going to be late. Start without me. A collective groan went through the room. Work emergency? On a Saturday night, Maria muttered, zipping up her dress. Just be glad we get an extra hour without her, Jenna said, and we all laughed. I felt a sliver of relief. Maybe she'd just skip the dinner entirely. We could have one perfect, drama-free night. We arrived at the restaurant and it was stunning. Open air right on the water with white tablecloths and twinkling fairy lights everywhere. The hostess led our very pink-clad group to a prime table. We ordered a round of spicy margaritas and the mood was electric. For an hour, I forgot all about Sarah. We were loud, we were laughing, and I was surrounded by the women I loved most. To Lisa, Chloe toasted, holding her glass high. The most beautiful, kind, and patient bride-to-be in the world. We all clinked our glasses, and in that moment I felt pure happiness. That's when I saw her. She wasn't walking, she was striding, making an entrance. Every head in the restaurant turned to watch her. My brother's girlfriend, my bridesmaid by obligation, Sarah. She wasn't wearing pink. She was in a floor-length, backless white sequin gown. It clung to her body like a second skin shimmering under the restaurant lights. As if that wasn't enough, the bottom of the dress exploded into a cloud of white tulle, a miniature train that swept the floor behind her. And perched on top of her perfectly coiffed hair was a delicate, glittering tiara. She looked more like a bride than I did. More than I ever would. My friends' laughter died in their throats. Jenna's jaw was literally hanging open. We all just stared stunned into silence as she glided toward our table, a smug little smile playing on her lips. A waitress who had just been approaching to take our order stopped and beamed at our table, her eyes landing first on me in my pale pink, then on the radiant vision in white. Oh, how lovely, the waitress chirped, completely oblivious. Are we celebrating a joint bachelorette party tonight? The waitress's cheerful voice felt like a slap. My blood ran cold, then hot. Every ounce of joy from the evening evaporated, replaced by a white-hot humming rage. A joint bachelorette party. She had turned my night, my celebration, into a spectacle starring herself. Chloe recovered first. She gave the waitress a tight, dismissive smile. No. Just the one, she said, gesturing pointedly at me. For Lisa. The actual bride. The waitress's face fell, her eyes darting between me in my blush pink and Sarah in her bridal armor. Oh, I'm so sorry. It's fine, I bit out my voice dangerously low. Sarah finally reached the table, feigning a breathless innocence. Sorry, I'm late. The call ran forever. What did I miss? She slid into the empty chair, her tulle skirt crunching against the seat. The tiara on her head caught the light and sent a tiny mocking sparkle directly into my eye. No one answered her. The silence was thick and heavy. Maria stared at Sarah's dress like it was a poisonous snake. Jenna was just slowly shaking her head, a look of pure disgust on her face. What Sarah asked, her voice laced with manufactured confusion. Is something wrong? That was it. I snapped. What's wrong, Sarah? I asked, my voice shaking with fury. What's wrong is that you look like you're about to walk down the aisle at your own wedding. At times, my times, bachelorette party. She placed a hand on her chest, her expression a perfect mask of wounded surprise. Oh my God, Lisa, this old thing. It's just a cocktail dress. I can't believe you'd think I was trying to upstage you. I would never. A white sequin gown with a tulle train and a tiara as a cocktail dress? Jenna scoffed from across the table. In what universe? I just wanted to look nice for your big night, Sarah insisted, her voice getting louder, playing to the nearby tables. I feel so attacked right now. The photographer Chloe had hired for an hour arrived right then, a cheerful guy with a huge camera. Ready for some group shots, ladies? Absolutely, I said, standing up. My chair scraped loudly against the floor. I looked directly at Sarah. We are. You're not in them. Her jaw dropped. For the first time, a flicker of genuine shock crossed her face. What? Why not? Because the theme was pink, I said, my voice ice. We're taking pink-themed photos. I didn't get the memo, she cried, the lie slipping out so easily. My work call was so crazy I must have missed the text. The knot of unease in my stomach that had prompted me to screenshot her message tightened into a vindicated fist. I pulled out my phone, unlocked it, and pulled up the image. I didn't say a word. I just turned the screen towards her. There it was in black and white. Her own words. Cute idea, Chloe. Very bubblegum. And her follow-up discussing Jenna's pink dress from Revolve. Her face went pale. The smugness, the faux innocence. It all dissolved, leaving behind a pinched, ugly look of being caught. She stared at the phone, then at me, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. Get out of the way, Sarah, Chloe said, her voice leaving no room for argument. She, Jenna, and Maria stood up flanking me. We were a wall of furious pink. We walked over to a spot by the water, the photographer looking bewildered, but following our lead. Sarah was left alone at the table, a shimmering white monument to her own narcissism. We took the pictures. We smiled, we posed, we linked arms. In every shot, we were a vibrant, cohesive group, and I was the undeniable center. There was no confusing who the bride was. From the corner of my eye, I could see Sarah watching us, her arms crossed, her face a thundercloud. It was the most satisfying and miserable photo shoot of my life. The flight home was silent. Sarah sat 3 rows behind us and didn't say a word. The moment my plane landed, my phone buzzed. It was John. I ignored it, knowing what was coming. It buzzed again. And again. By the time I was in the taxi home, I had 5 missed calls and a string of furious texts. What the hell did you do to Sarah? She's in tears. Said you and your friends bullied her all night. Answer your phone, Lisa. I waited until I was inside my apartment, the door locked securely behind me. I took a deep breath and called him. He picked up on the first ring. "What is wrong with you?" he yelled, his voice raw. "She flew all the way to Miami for you, and you treat her like that. You deliberately excluded her and humiliated her in front of everyone." "She humiliated me, John," I shot back, my own voice rising. "She showed up to my bachelorette dinner in a wedding dress and a tiara." "It was a white dress. So what? You don't own the color white. Sarah said you were all just jealous because she looked better than you." The accusation knocked the wind out of me. "Are you listening to yourself?" "She lied, John. She said she never got the memo about wearing pink, but she literally discussed it in the group chat. I have the receipts." "Receipts?" he scoffed. "This isn't a courtroom, Lisa. It's our family. You've turned into a complete bridezilla. This whole wedding has made you crazy and cruel." The word bridezilla hung in the air between us. It was the ultimate insult, the one designed to dismiss a woman's valid anger as hormonal hysteria. All the frustration, the hurt, the years of swallowing Sarah's little digs for his sake, it all came pouring out. "Fine," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "If I'm a bridezilla, then I'll be one. Sarah is no longer a bridesmaid. She's uninvited from the wedding." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Then a low, menacing reply. "If she's not welcome, then neither am I." He hung up. I stood in my living room, phone in my hand shaking. My brother, my only sibling, was choosing her. He was choosing the woman who deliberately tried to ruin my celebration over his own sister. The next day, a text landed in the family group chat from John. My mom, my dad, me. "For your information, Sarah and I won't be at Father's Day brunch this weekend. We don't feel comfortable being around people who think it's okay to bully and exclude family." My mother called me instantly frantic. I explained everything, my voice cracking as I recounted the white dress, the tiara, the lie. I sent her the screenshot. She was horrified, but also devastated. "Your brother is just blinded by her honey. Please, can't you just be the bigger person and apologize to smooth things over?" "Apologize? For what?" "For not letting her walk all over me." Now I'm sitting here staring at the Father's Day card I bought for my dad, wondering if he'll be celebrating it without his son. The wedding is in 2 months. John and I haven't spoken. I heard from a cousin that things between him and Sarah are strained, that he can't understand why she won't just let it go. Part of me feels a grim satisfaction. The other part, a much larger part, is hollowed out with grief. I stood up for myself, but in doing so, I might have just detonated my entire family. And a tiny, insidious voice in the back of my head keeps asking times, "Was it worth it? Did you go too far?" Asterisk.
Story 4.
I always thought we had the perfect story. You know the one. The high school sweethearts who actually made it. 10 years married for 5. We were the couple our friends pointed to and said, "See, it can work." I built my entire life on that foundation. Our foundation. It's why I started the company. J&A Contracting. Johnny and Amanda. Corny, I know, but it was supposed to be our legacy. I'd bust my ass for 10 years, build an empire from drywall and 2x4s, and then we'd cash out. Buy that colonial on a cul-de-sac, fill it with a couple of kids, and a golden retriever. The whole damn American dream gift wrapped. I wasn't just building houses. I was building times ours. Asterisk. Every late night, every sawdust-filled Saturday was a brick in that future home. I'd come home smelling of wood stain and sweat, my hands cracked and raw. I'd find her on the couch scrolling through her phone. "Hey, babe," I'd say, kissing the top of her head. "Hey," she'd answer, eyes glued to the screen. Long day. The longest. But the Peterson kitchen is almost done. The backsplash looks incredible. You should see it. I was always trying to pull her into my world to make her see the blueprints taking shape. "That's great, Johnny." Tap, tap, scroll. The distance started as a hairline crack, so small you could ignore it. I'd be sketching out a deck design at the dining room table at 11 p.m., and she'd walk by on her way to bed. Coming soon, she'd ask her hand on the light switch. Just gotta finish this proposal. This one job could pay for our down payment, Mandy? The whole thing. She'd just sigh. A soft little puff of air. Okay. Don't be too late. The light would click off, leaving me in a small circle of lamplight alone with my plans for us. I told myself it was sacrifice. The short-term pain for the long-term gain. I was a fool. The cracks started to spread. Her phone, which used to be communal property, suddenly had a passcode. She'd angle it away from me when a text came in. "Who's that?" I'd ask, leaning over to steal a fry from her plate. "Just Sarah from work," she'd say, quickly typing a reply and flipping the phone face down. It was always work. Work drinks became a weekly thing. Then a twice-weekly thing. She started talking about this new guy on her team, Mark. "He's hilarious," she'd say. "You'd like him." He was always in the story she told about her day, a new recurring character in a show I wasn't watching. I'd nod along, half listening my mind on payroll and lumber costs. One Friday, I decided to surprise her. I closed out the job site early, picked up her favorite Thai food, and a bottle of wine. I walked into our apartment, ready for a win. Ready to be the husband who showed up, who wasn't just a ghost covered in sawdust. The apartment was empty. I put the food in the fridge and sat on the couch, the wine bottle sweating on the coffee table. 7 p.m. became 8 p.m. 8 p.m. became 9:30. My text went from cheerful to concerned. Asterisk. "Hey babe. Where are you? Got a surprise asterisk." Asterisk. "Everything okay? Getting worried." Asterisk. Asterisk. "Mandy, call me." Asterisk. At 1015, her keys finally rattled in the lock. She walked in, flushed and smiling, smelling faintly of beer and a cologne that wasn't mine. Her smile died when she saw me on the couch. "Johnny. What are you doing home so early?" Not "hey honey," not "oh my god, I'm so sorry." It was an accusation. "I wanted to surprise you," I said, my voice flat. I gestured to the cold takeout containers on the counter. "We were supposed to have dinner." "Oh shit," she said, not looking at me. She dropped her purse on the floor. "I'm so sorry." The team went out for drinks after the presentation. It completely slipped my mind. The team, or Mark, the name just came out. It tasted like acid. Her head snapped up. Her eyes were hard. "What is that supposed to mean?" "It means you're out with him a lot, Mandy. It means you smell like his cologne and you forgot you were even married tonight." "Oh my god, you are so paranoid," she scoffed, rolling her eyes. "You're never here. You're always working, always obsessed with the business. For once, I go out and have some fun, and you get possessive. You can't have it both ways, Johnny." She spun a whole narrative. I was the absent husband, the workaholic who didn't care. She twisted my sacrifice into neglect, my love into a cage. And the worst part is, I almost believed her. I spent that entire night apologizing for wanting to have dinner with my own wife. I was the one who slept on the couch, feeling guilty. The next few weeks were cold. We were roommates living in the ruins of a relationship. We spoke in pleasantries. "Have a good day. Don't forget to take out the trash." The passion was gone, replaced by a brittle, polite silence that was 1,000 times louder than shouting. I felt it slipping. Everything I was working for was turning to sand in my hands. I told myself it was a rough patch. I told myself to just work harder, finish the next big project, and then I'd have time to fix us. I'd buy us a vacation. I'd make it right. Then came the Tuesday. It was a normal night. I was cleaning up after dinner, a silent meal of leftovers eaten while watching TV, and she was standing by the window staring out at the streetlights. The air was thick with things unsaid. My back was to her when she finally spoke. Her voice small, fragile. "Johnny." I turned around, wiping my hands on a dish towel. "Yeah." She wouldn't look at me. Her gaze was fixed on something far away. "We need to talk." My heart hammered against my ribs. I knew. In that instant, I knew the foundation was gone, the walls were crumbling, and the roof was about to cave in on my head. I walked over and sat on the edge of the sofa, the fake leather cool against my skin. "Okay," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Talk." She finally turned from the window. Her face was pale, her eyes glistening. She looked at me, really looked at me for the first time in months, and took a deep, shaky breath. "I did something," she started. "Something terrible." "I slept with Mark," she said. The words didn't land. They just hung in the air between us, ugly and foreign. My brain tried to file them somewhere, but there was no folder for this. The silence stretched until it hummed. When I asked. My voice sounded like it was coming from the bottom of a well. A few times. The last time was Friday night. Friday night? The night I bought Thai food? The night I sat on the couch worrying about her? The night I apologized to Times Her Asterisk? The rage was a physical thing, a hot wave that started in my stomach and surged up into my throat. I stood up, my fists clenched so tight my nails bit into my palms. I saw the blueprint of our future, the colonial, the kids, J&A, contracting all of it, burning down to ash. "Get out," I said. It was a growl. "Johnny, please. Get your things and get out of my house." The next 6 months were a black hole. The divorce was a blur, paperwork, and venom. She tried to come after the business Times, our Times business, but the company was in my name alone. She got half the savings I'd been building for Times, our Times down payment. A parting gift. I lived in a ghost town of our apartment. Her smell lingered in the closet, her favorite mug was still in the cabinet. I worked on autopilot, framing walls and installing cabinets for other people's perfect lives. Then I'd come home, open a beer, and stare at the wall until it was time to open another one. The thought of ending it was a constant, quiet hum in the back of my mind. It seemed so much easier than this. Then breathing. Then feeling the weight of it all every single second. My sister Sarah would call every day. I'd let it go to voicemail. She started just showing up, bringing groceries I wouldn't eat, and forcing me to take a shower. One Saturday, she didn't come alone. She had my niece and nephew with her 6-year-old twins, Liam and Chloe. They tore into the apartment like a hurricane of pure, unfiltered life. They immediately found my dog Buster and started a game of chase that involved more giggling than running. I was sitting on the couch, my usual spot, when Chloe ran up and handed me a crayon drawing. It was a stick figure with a beard me and a lumpy brown dog standing in front of a crooked house under a giant smiling sun. "It's for you, Uncle Johnny," she said, beaming. Liam ran over. "Mine's better," he declared, shoving his own masterpiece in my face. I looked at their faces so full of hope and uncomplicated joy. They weren't looking at a broken man. They were looking at their uncle. In that moment, something shifted. It was the first glimmer of light in the darkness. I was their uncle. I was Buster's owner. I was somebody's son. I wasn't just Amanda's ex-husband. The suicidal thoughts weren't gone, but for the first time, a reason to fight them back felt real. That Monday, I woke up and didn't reach for a beer. I looked at myself in the mirror. I'd lost 30 pounds. My eyes were sunken, dark pits. The man staring back at me was a stranger I hated. I hated that he'd let her do this to him. I hated that he'd given up. Enough. The first call was to a therapist my sister had recommended. I booked an appointment for that afternoon and another for Wednesday. The second action was on my phone. I went to her contact. Blocked. I went to Instagram. Blocked. Facebook. Blocked. Every digital doorway back to her I slammed shut and deadbolted. It was a declaration of war. Not on her, but on the part of me that was still waiting for her to come back and fix what she'd broken. That afternoon, I walked into the therapist's office. It was awkward and raw. I talked, she listened. I left with a prescription for an antidepressant and a sliver of hope. The change wasn't a lightning strike. It was a slow, grueling grind. Every morning was a choice. I chose to get up. I chose to take Buster for a long walk instead of letting him out in the yard. I chose to go to the gym, channeling all the rage and grief into the cold, unforgiving weight of a barbell. The first time I deadlifted, the strain felt like it was tearing me apart, but as I dropped the weight with a crash, I felt a release. A flicker of power. I poured myself into the business. I took the A out of J and A contracting. It was just my company now. My legacy. I worked harder than ever, but this time it wasn't for a phantom future with her. It was for me. I hired 2 new guys. I landed a contract to build a custom home from the ground up. My hands were cracked and raw again, but now it felt like healing. It was hard. There were days the depression was a heavy blanket I couldn't throw off. Days I'd see a couple holding hands and feel that familiar sharp stab of pain. But I kept going to therapy. I kept lifting. I kept building. 6 months in, I looked in the mirror again. The stranger was gone. I saw my own eyes looking back at me, clearer and harder than before. I decided it was time. I downloaded Hinge. 1 year later, I was standing on the deck of the custom home I'd just finished handing the keys to the new owners. The sun was setting, painting the sky in streaks of orange and purple. My business had doubled its revenue. I was in the best shape of my life. "It's beautiful, Johnny." "Truly," the husband said, shaking my hand. I smiled. "Enjoy it." Later that night, I met my girlfriend Kate for dinner. She was a landscape architect I'd met on Hinge. She was smart, funny, and had eyes that crinkled at the corners when she laughed. She listened when I talked about work, asking questions about joist spacing and wood grains. When I told her about my past, she didn't flinch. She just took my hand and said, "Her loss." Simple as that. Sitting across from her, watching her tell a story, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't thought was possible. This wasn't a replacement for the old dream. This was better. This was real. The revenge, if you can call it that, came quietly. An email would pop up every few months. The sender, Amanda Miller, her maiden name. I never opened them. The subject lines were enough: "Thinking of you, can we talk, I miss you." I'd see her tagged in photos on mutual friends' feeds. She'd gained a lot of weight. Her smile looked forced. I heard through the grapevine she and Mark hadn't lasted 6 months. She was alone, working the same job, living in a small apartment across town. She was spying on my life while I was busy living it. I hit delete without a second thought. There was no satisfaction, no malice. Just nothing. She was a ghost from a different life. The old me thought happiness was a destination you build for someone else. A white picket fence, a mortgage, a shared last name. I was wrong. It's not a house you build. It's a foundation you lay inside yourself brick by painful brick. And when you build it right, you realize you're the one you were fighting for all along. It does get better. It gets so much better.
Story 5.
In my family, we have a tradition. It's not about money or fancy things. It's about thread and time and love. When a new baby is born, the grandmother on the mother's side knits the coming home outfit. Every single stitch is a prayer, a wish for a good life. I did it for my sister's 3 kids. My mother did it for mine. The outfit is always red for luck, for protection, for a vibrant life. It's the first real garment the baby wears out in the world, a cocoon of family history. So when my eldest daughter, Pam, called me, her voice trembling with excitement, to tell me she was pregnant, my first thought after the explosion of joy in my chest was of yarn. Soft merino wool, the color of a ripe cherry. "Mom," she'd said a few weeks later after the first ultrasound, "you're going to make the outfit right, the red one, for my baby." Tears sprang to my eyes. "Of course, sweetie. I've been waiting my whole life for you to ask." I started that night. For 7 months, that project was my shadow. I'd sit in my worn armchair, the needles clicking a steady rhythmic beat, while the TV hummed in the background. I poured everything into it. I wove in tiny, almost invisible patterns, a small stalk of wheat for prosperity, a little wave for a calm spirit, a tiny 8-pointed star over the heart for guidance. It was more than a sweater and booties. It was a story, a blessing she would be wrapped in. My hands ached, my eyes strained, but my heart was full. When I finally finished the little matching cap, I wrapped the entire set in soft tissue paper, tied it with a white ribbon, and felt a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. Pam's delivery wasn't easy. It ended in an emergency C-section and a beautiful screaming baby girl they named Lily, my first grandchild. As planned, I went to stay with Pam and her husband Tom for 2 weeks to help. Tom was great, but his parents, the Davidsons, were a lot. Nice enough, I suppose, but their love language was money. Every day, a new delivery would arrive, a $400 bassinet, a stroller that cost more than my first car clothes with logos I didn't even recognize. I tried not to let it bother me. I was there for Pam and Lily. I cooked, I cleaned, I held the baby so Pam could sleep. The day before they were scheduled to be discharged from the hospital, I helped Pam pack Lily's go bag. "Don't forget the most important part," I said, smiling as I pointed to the beautiful gift wrap box on the dresser. I'd brought it with me from home. It was labeled in my neatest script times, "For Lily's Journey Home." Asterisk. Pam glanced at it, a quick, almost dismissive flick of her eyes. "Oh, right. Tom, can you stick that in the bag?" Tom grabbed the box. A flicker of unease went through me. "You did put my outfit in there, right, Pam?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. "Yes, Mom," she said, her focus on folding a ridiculously small onesie. "It's in there. The special one. For her departure." The unease vanished, replaced by a warm flood of anticipation. I pictured it already, my tiny granddaughter, wrapped in 7 months of my love, leaving the hospital to start her life. The next day was a chaotic blur of nurses, paperwork, and flowers. Tom's parents arrived, smelling of perfume and money cooing over Lily. Finally, it was time to go. The nurse gave the final all clear. Pam, still sore and moving, slowly nodded toward the go bag. "Mom, can you do the honors? Dress her for me." She then handed me the box I had pointed to the day before, the one with my handwriting on it. My heart swelled. This was it. This was the moment. The passing of the torch. I carried the box over to the bassinet where Lily was sleeping, her tiny chest rising and falling. I said a silent little thank you and carefully untied the white ribbon. I lifted the lid, pushing back the layers of tissue paper. And then I froze. There was no soft cherry red wool. There was no tiny hand-stitched star. Instead, nestled in the paper was a cream-colored cashmere onesie. A tiny interlocking good game pattern was woven into the fabric. A matching hat and booties lay beside it. It was beautiful, I suppose, in an empty, sterile way. It was expensive. It was Gucci. A small gift card was tucked inside. Asterisk. "Welcome to the world, Lily. With love, Grandma and Grandpa Davidson." Asterisk. I stared at it, the blood draining from my face. My hands felt cold. I looked over at Pam, who was busy talking to her mother-in-law, laughing at something she said. She wasn't looking at me. She knew exactly what was in this box. She'd confirmed it. Asterisk. Yes, Mom. It's in there. Asterisk. The lie was so casual. So complete. My throat closed up. 1,000 things streamed through my mind. I wanted to drop the box. I wanted to walk over to my daughter and ask her why. Why she'd let me pour my heart into something knowing she was just going to throw it aside for a status symbol. Why she'd lied to my face. But I saw her wincing as she shifted her weight. She was recovering from major surgery. She was a new mother, hormonal and exhausted. I couldn't make a scene. I couldn't ruin this day for her or for the baby. So I said nothing. With trembling hands, I lifted the designer outfit from the box. It felt weightless, meaningless. I gently woke Lily and slid her tiny arms and legs into the ridiculously expensive clothes. She looked like a doll in a store window. A stranger. I swallowed the lump in my throat, a hard, painful knot of betrayal. I swaddled her in her blanket, picked her up, and walked over to Pam, forcing a smile that felt like cracking glass. She's ready, I whispered. Pam beamed. Oh, Mom, she looks perfect. Doesn't she look perfect? I just nodded, unable to speak. I handed my granddaughter my first grandchild dressed in a lie over to her mother. The silence in my own head was deafening for weeks. I went home and put the red outfit away in a chest in the attic, unable to look at it. I answered Pam's calls and told her she was a wonderful mother. I looked at the pictures she sent of Lily in the Gucci outfit, the ones that got hundreds of likes on social media. Each one was a fresh stab in the heart. The hurt settled deep in my bones, a cold, heavy ache that wouldn't go away. I thought I was hiding it well. But kids always know. My son Mark stopped by one afternoon a month later. I was sitting at the kitchen table staring into a cold cup of tea. He watched me for a long moment, his brow furrowed with concern. Mom, he finally said, his voice gentle. What's going on? You haven't been yourself since Lily was born. You seem so sad. Did something happen? The question hung in the air between us, heavy and real. I took a shaky breath, the dam I'd been building for weeks starting to crack. His gentle gaze was too much. It was one thing to lie to myself, but I couldn't lie to my son. The whole story spilled out of me. The 7 months of knitting, Pam's specific request, the patterns woven with wishes, the lie about the box, the shock of finding that designer label. My voice cracked as I described dressing Lily in a stranger's gift, while my own steeped in tradition and love was probably still in the hospital bag discarded. I didn't say a word, Mark. I couldn't. She'd just had surgery. But she asked me for it. She made me believe it mattered. I finally looked up from my hands, my eyes burning. It's not about the Gucci outfit. I don't care if it cost $1,000. It's that she asked me to pour my soul into something for that one specific moment, and then she threw it away and lied to my face about it. Mark listened, his expression hardening from concern to anger. He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. That's awful, Mom. I'm so sorry. He stood up, pacing the small kitchen. She shouldn't have done that. She should have just been honest from the start. He was so furious on my behalf, it actually made me feel a little better. I felt seen. I felt validated. He promised he wouldn't say anything to Pam, that he'd let me handle it. I should have known a brother's loyalty would win out. I don't know who Mark told. Maybe his wife, who then told her sister. Maybe he vented to our cousin. All I know is that within a week, the story had slithered through the family grapevine, twisting and mutating with each retelling. The nuance was the first casualty. My deep hurt over a betrayal of trust became Ella's upset. Pam didn't use her knitted outfit. That in turn became Ella hates the expensive gift from the Davidsons. The final most toxic version was the one that reached Pam. My phone rang 2 weeks later. It was her. I answered with a hopeful, "Hi, sweetie." "Don't you sweetie me," she spat, her voice tight with rage. "I cannot believe you." "I am a new mother. I am recovering from major surgery, and you are running around behind my back telling the entire family that I'm a monster." I was so stunned I couldn't speak. "What, Pam? No, You're just what upset? You think you're the only one with feelings here. Tom's parents did something incredibly generous for their first grandchild, and you're acting like they committed a crime. You're just jealous. That's all it is. You're jealous they can afford to buy her beautiful things and you can't." The accusation hit me like a physical blow. Jealous? I couldn't have cared less about the price tag. I would have been just as hurt if she'd swapped my outfit for a $10 onesie from Target. "That is not what this is about, and you know it," I said, my voice trembling. "This is about you asking me to make something special, a family tradition, and then lying to me." "Oh my God, the tradition," she scoffed, a cruel, sharp sound. "Are you even listening to yourself? You're trying to make the birth of my child all about you and your stupid knitting. Lily is healthy, she's beautiful, and she's loved. Why isn't that enough for you? Why do you have to create all this drama?" Every word was a perfectly aimed dart. She had taken my genuine grief, my feeling of being so carelessly dismissed, and reframed it as petty, selfish, attention-seeking. She wasn't just defending her actions. She was attacking my character. She was invalidating months of my love and labor, dismissing it as a prop in my own melodrama. "Pam, that's not fair," I whispered, tears streaming down my face. "No, what's not fair is you trying to ruin this special time for me," she said, her voice rising. "I don't have time for this. I have a baby to take care of." Then she hung up. The silence that followed was absolute. I just sat there, phone in my hand, staring at the wall. She had turned my love into an accusation, my hurt into a weapon she could claim I was using against her. The family, of course, fractured. My sister called immediately, furious at Pam. "What is wrong with her?" I told her. "Your mother would have knit that outfit with her bare teeth if she had to, and you treat her like this?" But then my brother-in-law called Tom, trying to play peacemaker, and ended up taking his side. "You know how Pam is," he told my sister later. "She's overwhelmed, and the Davidsons are her family now, too. Ella needs to be the bigger person." My phone buzzed with texts. A cousin telling me I was completely in the right. An aunt telling me I should just apologize to keep the peace. "It's just a sweater, Ella. Is it worth losing your daughter over?" Was it? The question echoed in the empty house. I walked up to the attic, the stairs creaking under my weight. I opened the cedar chest and lifted out the little red outfit still wrapped in its tissue paper. I ran my thumb over the tiny 8-pointed star stitched over the heart. A blessing for guidance. I had spent 7 months pouring love and protection into this little garment. And in one phone call, my daughter had convinced me it was nothing more than a symbol of my own selfishness. Pam's accusation that I should just be happy about the baby's health was the cruelest cut of all. It implied my feelings were in opposition to my granddaughter's well-being, that my sadness somehow diminished my love for her. I sat on the dusty floor of the attic holding the little red sweater to my chest, and I felt a profound sense of confusion. Was I a jealous, dramatic woman trying to make everything about myself? Had I overreacted? Was a broken tradition, a secret lie, and a crushed heart? Really? Such a big deal in the grand scheme of things? I didn't have an answer. I just knew that something had been broken that day in the hospital, and it wasn't just my heart. It was a thread in our family fabric, a thread I had spent a lifetime knitting. And I had no idea if it could ever be repaired.
Story 6.
The email sat open on my laptop, the subject line, "Practically glowing, your dream wedding at the Cove, contract and deposit information." My heart was doing a kick drum solo against my ribs. After 5 years of being engaged, of student loans and car payments, and saving for a house that felt perpetually out of reach, This one perfect, ridiculously expensive thing was finally ours. "Josh, look," I whispered, even though he was sitting right next to me on our worn-out sofa staring at the exact same screen. He wrapped an arm around my shoulder, pulling me in close. "We're really doing it, Jules. We're actually doing it." The Cove at Heron Point. It wasn't just a venue, it was a memory. We discovered it years ago on one of our regular treks, down to see Josh's younger brother James and his girlfriend Sally. They lived in this idyllic little beach town, a 10-hour drive that felt like migrating to a different planet. We'd make the trip 3-4 times a year, cramming our weekends with brunch spots. Sally wanted to try in dive bars. James swore had the best wings on the coast. They never came to visit us. Not once. But we told ourselves it was fine. They had the fun life, the beach life. We were the responsible older siblings. It was our job to make the effort. On one of those trips, we'd stumbled upon the Cove. It was an old manor house perched on a cliff, with sprawling green lawns that tumbled down to meet the churning blue of the ocean. A massive ancient oak tree stood sentinel at the edge of the property, its branches framing the horizon like a perfect photograph. We weren't even seriously planning back then, but we stood there holding hands and knew this was it. This was the place. For the last 5 months, planning had consumed us. Every spare dollar was allocated on a spreadsheet. Every spare moment was spent on Pinterest. And through it all, James and Sally had been our biggest cheerleaders. Or so I thought. "Oh my God, Sally, you will not believe the photographer we found," I'd gushed to her on FaceTime a few weeks ago, my laptop balanced on a pillow. Her aesthetic is exactly what we were talking about, that kind of moody, candid vibe. Sally's face, framed by her perfectly beach-waved blonde hair, lit up on the screen. "No way, send me her portfolio, I'm dying to see. I'm so happy for you guys. You deserve this." I'd screenshotted florists, caterers, even the string quartet we were considering for the ceremony. I sent her everything. I valued her opinion, and more than that, I wanted her to feel included. She was going to be my sister-in-law after all. Josh was the same with James. They were on the phone constantly. "Dude, so we're locking in October 12th, Josh had said just last week, pacing our small living room. Can you believe it? The foliage should be incredible. You're still good to be my best man, right?" I could hear James's faint but enthusiastic voice through the phone. "Are you kidding me? Of course, man. Hey, since you're doing it down here, let me know if you need me to check anything out for you. Do a little recon." "That's awesome, man. Thanks, Josh," had said, beaming. "It means a lot." See, supportive. Eager. Our family. Now, sitting on the couch, the official contract open, it all felt real. The total on the invoice made my stomach do a nervous flip, but we'd planned for it. We'd budgeted down to the last cent. We could do this. The deposit is due by 5 p.m. Tomorrow, Josh read aloud, tracing the words on the screen with his finger. 24 hours, Jules. In 24 hours, the Cove is officially ours. I leaned my head on his shoulder, a wave of pure, uncut happiness washing over me. All the waiting, all the sacrificing, it was all worth it for this. For that lawn, that oak tree, that view. "We should call them," I said, already, reaching for my phone. "Tell them the final date is set." We FaceTimed them together. They answered on the second ring, their faces tanned and smiling the blue sky of their beach town behind them. "Big news," Sally asked, her eyes wide with faint excitement. "The biggest," Josh said, grinning. "We got the contract. We're officially getting married at the Cove on Saturday, October 12th. The deposit is due tomorrow." "Oh my God," Sally squealed, clutching James's arm. "That's amazing. It's finally happening. We're going to have the best time. A wedding in our own backyard." James nodded, a wide, easy smile on his face. "That's unreal, bro. Seriously, congratulations. Let the countdown begin." We talked for another 10 minutes, going over little details, them asking about hotel blocks for the family and logistics for the rehearsal dinner. Sally even suggested a brunch spot for the morning after. Every word was a stitch, sewing them deeper into the fabric of our dream. Looking back, I can see the whole conversation was a lie, a masterclass in manipulation. But at that moment, I was just happy. My family was happy for me. Okay, we gotta go, I said finally. We're opening a bottle of champagne that's been in our fridge for way too long to celebrate. Do it, Sally said. You guys have earned it. Text me pictures. We hung up, and the tiny apartment was filled with the loud times, pop times of a cork. We didn't even have proper flutes, so we drank champagne out of coffee mugs laughing. It felt perfect. Later that night, curled up in bed, I sent Sally one last text. It was a picture I'd found on the venue's Instagram page, a bride and groom kissing under the big oak tree as the sun set over the ocean. I typed, "Times, can you believe this is going to be us in a year? I can't wait for you to stand up there with me." Asterisk. Her reply came back almost instantly. Asterisk. It's going to be the most beautiful wedding ever. I'm crying already, asterisk. The next morning, I woke up buzzing with an energy I hadn't felt in years. It was payment day. Josh had already made coffee, and we sat at our small kitchen table, laptops open, ready to make the wire transfer that would seal the deal. This was the finish line of a marathon we'd been running for 5 years. Ready to do this, Josh asked, his finger hovering over the mouse. So ready, I breathed my own cursor position right next to the confirm transfer button on my screen. We looked at each other, sharing a silent, giddy moment of triumph. This was it. The point of no return. And then his phone rang, its cheerful ringtone slicing through the quiet anticipation. He glanced at the screen. "It's my dad," he said, answering with a smile. "Hey Dad, perfect timing. You're on speaker. Julie and I are about to..." He stopped. The smile on his face didn't just disappear. It was erased. He went utterly still, his eyes locked on mine. The color drained from his face, leaving a pale, sickly mask. He just listened, his knuckles turning white as he gripped his phone. "Josh," I whispered, my heart starting to pound for a whole new reason. "Josh, what is it? What's wrong?" He didn't answer. He just kept listening to the voice on the other end of the line, his expression crumbling. A deep primal sense of dread coiled in my stomach. Something was terribly, horribly wrong. Slowly, like he was moving underwater, he lowered the phone from his ear and pressed the button to end the call. He stared at the blank laptop screen in front of him, but I knew he wasn't seeing it. He looked completely and utterly broken. "Josh, you're scaring me," I said, my voice trembling. "Talk to me. What did your dad say?" He finally turned to look at me, and his eyes were hollowed out, filled with a disbelief so profound it stole my breath. "James and Sally," he said, his voice a dead, empty whisper. "They just booked the Cove." I stared at him, confused. "What? What are you talking about? For what?" Josh swallowed hard, his gaze unwavering. "For their wedding." He paused, and the final two words landed like a physical blow, knocking all the air from my lungs. "The weekend before ours?" The words hung in the air, thick and poisonous. For a second, my brain refused to process them. It was like trying to read a sentence in a language I didn't know. "That's not funny, Josh," I said, my voice flat. "Tell your dad to stop joking." "He's not joking, Jules." Josh's voice was hollow. Dad said James called him this morning, all excited. Said he and Sally wanted to surprise everyone. They put the deposit down an hour ago. For October 5th. At the Cove. I laughed. A sharp, ugly sound that held no humor. But they're not even engaged. Apparently he proposed last night, Josh mumbled, staring at the wall. Right after we got off FaceTime with them. The pieces clicked into place with sickening speed. The feigned excitement. Sally asking for my photographer's portfolio, my florist quotes, the name of the string quartet. James offering to do recon. Every supportive word, every encouraging question wasn't for us. It was for them. They weren't my cheerleaders. They were my spies. They had taken my dream, meticulously planned and paid for with 5 years of our sweat and sacrifice, and they had Xeroxed it. They're stealing our wedding, I whispered, the realization hitting me like a physical blow. The champagne from last night turned to acid in my stomach. I don't understand, Josh stammered, running a hand through his hair. Why would they do this? Why the same place? Why the weekend right before? My shock was hardening into a cold, sharp-edged rage. Don't you see? It's not a coincidence. It's a power play. I stood up, pacing our tiny kitchen. The Cove is 10 hours away, Josh. It's a destination for our entire family. Your grandparents, my parents, our friends from college. They can't make that trip 2 weekends in a row. They can't afford 2 flights, 2 hotel stays, 2 wedding gifts. James and Sally know that. They're forcing everyone to choose. And they knew who would be chosen. The younger son. The one who lived in the fun town. The first wedding. Ours would be the sloppy seconds, the encore that half the audience had already left for. This is a slap in the face, I said, my voice rising. They wanted our wedding, but they wanted it first. They let me do all the work, all the planning, and then they swooped in and took it. Josh grabbed his phone. I'm calling him. There has to be an explanation. He put it on speaker. My eyes were glued to the screen as the phone rang. And rang. And rang. It went to James's chirpy, pre-recorded voicemail. Hey, you've reached James. Leave a message. Josh hung up, his jaw tight. Okay. Try Sally. I dialed her number, my thumb trembling. It rang twice and then went straight to voicemail. She hadn't just ignored the call, she'd actively rejected it. She sent me to voicemail, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. Josh's face was a storm of confusion and fury. He opened his messaging app and typed his thumbs flying across the screen. Asterisk, James, call me right now. Dad told us about the venue. What the hell is going on, asterisk? We both stared at the phone. The bubble under his text switched from delivered to read. And then, nothing. No reply. No call. Just a gaping, intentional silence that screamed their guilt louder than any confession could. They were ghosting us. The last bit of hope I'd been clinging to, that this was all some colossal, idiotic misunderstanding, evaporated. This was malicious. This was planned. They had smiled in our faces while stabbing us in the back. The next few hours were a blur of numb disbelief. We didn't make the wire transfer. The 5 p.m. deadline came and went. Our dream venue slipping through our fingers while its contract sat open on my laptop like a tombstone. Later that evening, Josh's mom called. Her voice was laced with a forced, placating cheerfulness. Josh, honey, I spoke to James, she said. Josh had her on speaker, his face grim. He and Sally are just so excited they got a little carried away. You know how spontaneous they are. They said they just assumed you'd be thrilled to share the experience with them like a big month-long family celebration. I snorted. A big celebration where my guests would be broke and exhausted before my wedding even started. Mom, they booked the exact same venue a week before us, after we spent 5 months telling them every single detail. Josh said, his voice strained. And now they won't answer our calls. That's not spontaneous. That's insane. Now, let's not use that kind of language, she chided gently. I'm sure they didn't realize how it would look. Sally was worried you'd be upset, which is probably why they're not answering. They're just scared of the confrontation. Why don't you just find another weekend? Maybe in the spring. The Cove is lovely in the spring, I'm sure. I saw red. She wasn't defending them. She was making excuses for them. She was asking us, the ones who had been betrayed, to be the ones to compromise. To roll over and accept it. To move times our times wedding, the one we had planned for years. Josh hung up, looking defeated. He sank onto the couch next to me and buried his face in his hands. I don't know what to do, Jules. I stared at the picture I'd texted Sally less than 24 hours ago. The bride and groom under the ancient oak tree. It felt like a lifetime ago. The image was tainted, now poisoned by their deception. I couldn't imagine standing on that lawn under that tree knowing they had just done the exact same thing 7 days earlier with half my family missing because they'd already been there. I know what I'm doing, I said, my voice firm and clear. The hurt was still there, a deep, brutal ache in my chest, but it was being eclipsed by a cold, hard certainty. Josh looked up at me. I'm not going, I stated. What, to our wedding? To theirs, I clarified. I will not stand by and watch them celebrate this. I will not smile for pictures. I will not buy them a gift. I will not toast to their happiness when they so deliberately and maliciously try to destroy ours. I am done with them, Josh. Completely and utterly done. He stared at me, his eyes wide. He knew I meant it. This wasn't a negotiation. It was a declaration. The line had been drawn. His brother and his future wife were on one side, and I was on the other. The family is already fractured. His parents are trying to sweep it under the rug to pretend this is just a silly sibling squabble. But it's not. It's a betrayal so profound that I can't see a way back. They didn't just steal a venue, they stole our joy. They proved that they value their own selfish whims more than they value us, more than they value family. And now I'm left sitting here in the rubble of my wedding plans wondering if I'm the crazy one. Am I overreacting? His mother's voice echoes in my head telling me to be the bigger person, to just move our date to forgive and forget. But I can't. Forgiving this feels like saying it was okay. And it wasn't. So I'm turning to the only place I can think of for an unbiased opinion. I'm laying it all out, every painful detail. Am I justified in boycotting my future brother-in-law's wedding after what they did? Or am I the one who's about to tear this family apart?
Story 7.
My older brother Tim was born with a gold medal around his neck. I was born with the instruction manual on how to polish it. Let me paint you a picture. I was 9 years old and had just won the regional soccer championship with a last-minute penalty kick. I came home with a ridiculously oversized trophy beaming my shins covered in bruises that felt like badges of honor. Tim, who was 12, had just gotten a B+ on a history paper. My trophy went on a bookshelf in the den. His paper went into a frame on the mantelpiece because he was applying himself at a critical age. That was the game, and I learned the rules early. Tim was the academic prodigy, the debate club champion, the future CEO. He collected accolades like other kids collected baseball cards. I was the jock, the one who was good with his hands, the son who would probably end up running a respectable, if not impressive, business. My parents loved me, I guess, but they times admired Tim. There's a difference. He was their masterpiece. I was the comfortable, predictable sketch in the corner. For years, his brand of bullying was standard issue older brother stuff. Headlocks, stealing the remote, mocking my taste in music. Annoying, but survivable. It was our normal. Then when I was 18, I changed the rules of the game. I sat my parents down in the living room, heart pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird, and told them I was gay. It was awkward. My mom cried a little, asked if it was a phase, if she'd done something wrong. My dad just stared at the rug, looking like I'd just told him the stock market had evaporated. But they tried. They really did. They said they loved me no matter what. It wasn't the parade I'd hoped for, but it wasn't the damnation I'd feared. It was a start. Tim was a different story. He was home from his first year at university, already carrying himself with an insufferable air of intellectual superiority. He just looked at me, his face twisting into a mask of pure disgust. I walked out of the room. He didn't speak to me for a week. The first word he finally said to me was, "Faggot" spat under his breath as I walked past him in the hallway. That first year of university changed him. He fell in with some fringe ultra-conservative religious group on campus. Suddenly our house was filled with pamphlets about moral purity and biblical truth. He wasn't just the golden child anymore. He was a self-proclaimed soldier for God. And I was his personal demon to exorcise. Dinner became a minefield. "The wages of sin are death, Daniel," he'd announce, staring directly at me while passing the mashed potatoes. "Not at the table, Tim," my dad would mumble, not looking up from his plate. "I'm just concerned for my brother's eternal soul, Dad." "Someone has to be." My mom would just change the subject. "So Daniel, how is practice going?" Enablement is a quiet poison. It looks a lot like keeping the peace. He started leaving pamphlets on my pillow, highlighted with yellow marker. Passages about Sodom and Gomorrah. He'd stand outside my bedroom door at night, and I could hear him whispering, praying for my soul. It was psychological warfare dressed up in piety. The breaking point should have been when I brought my friend Mark home. We were just studying for midterms. Mark is also gay, but that's not the point. He's just a decent guy. We were in the kitchen making sandwiches when Tim came in. He took one look at Mark, then at me, and his eyes went cold. "Get your pervert friend out of this house," he said, his voice low and shaking with rage. I stood up. "His name is Mark. And you don't talk to him like that." "I don't want his sickness contaminating this family," Tim snarled, taking a step closer. He was bigger than me, broader. He'd started lifting weights with his campus crusade buddies. "Tim, stop it," I said, my fists clenching. My mom rushed in, drawn by the noise. She immediately put her hands on Tim's chest, not to restrain him, but to soothe him. "Tim, honey, calm down. Let's not make a scene." She looked at me, her eyes pleading. "Daniel, maybe it's best if your friend leaves for now." Mark was already grabbing his backpack, his face pale. "It's cool, man. I'll see you in class." He was out the door before I could say another word. I just stared at my mom. "You're kicking him out because of times, him asterisk." "I'm just trying to keep the peace," she whispered, as if that explained everything. I spent that summer walking on eggshells, avoiding Tim and by extension my own home. I took extra shifts at my job, stayed late at the gym, spent weekends at friends' houses. The house had stopped feeling like a home and more like enemy territory where I was a prisoner of war. This past weekend was no different. I went on a camping trip with some friends from the soccer team. 2 days of fresh air, bad food, cooked over a fire, and zero talk of eternal damnation. It was bliss. I drove home Sunday evening feeling lighter than I had in months. I pulled into the driveway and saw my parents' car was gone. Good. A few hours of peace before the warden came home. I unlocked the front door, dropped my duffel bag in the entryway, and headed for the kitchen to grab a bottle of water. The house was dead quiet. Eerily so. A strange feeling crept over me as I walked up the stairs. A primal sense of wrongness. The door to my bedroom was slightly ajar. I pushed it open, and my blood ran cold. Everything was gone. My bed was stripped bare, the mattress naked. The posters on my walls, bands, movie heroes, sports icons were ripped down, leaving little white scars on the blue paint. My closet door was wide open, revealing nothing but empty hangers swinging gently in the draft from the window. My bookshelf was barren, every single book vanished. My soccer jerseys, my cleats, my video games, my TV, my high school yearbooks, my clothes, all of it. Gone. The room was a hollowed-out shell, an echo of a life. The only thing left was my laptop sitting closed on the bare desk. My eyes scanned the floor, desperate. Then I saw it. In the corner where a small display case used to sit was a pile of shattered plastic and torn cardboard. It was my prized possession, a soccer ball from the 1999 Women's World Cup signed by the entire team. I'd met them at a clinic when I was a kid. It was my own personal trophy, the one thing that was undeniably mine. My dad had helped me get it appraised a few years ago for insurance. It was worth over $1,200. Now, it was a pile of garbage. The leather was slashed in multiple places, the signatures sliced through with what looked like a box cutter. I sank to my knees, the reality crashing down on me in a wave of cold, silent fury. He hadn't just thrown my things away. He had violated them, destroyed them, tried to erase me. As I knelt there amidst the wreckage of my life, I heard the crunch of tires in the driveway. A car door slammed. Then another. Laughter, my mother's. Footsteps on the porch. The jingle of keys in the front door. They were home. I stayed on the floor listening to their voices drift up the stairs. My mother's light laugh, my dad's tired murmur, Tim's self-important drone. They sounded so normal. So oblivious. I picked up a shard of the display case, its edge sharp against my palm. My mother's footsteps were the first to reach the top of the stairs. "Daniel, I didn't know you were home," she called out, her voice cheerful. She appeared in the doorway and froze. Her hand flew to her mouth, the color draining from her face. "Oh my God," she gasped. "Daniel, what happened? Did someone break in? Are you okay?" I didn't answer. I just looked past her down the hall as my father and Tim came into view, drawn by her cry. My dad's face slackened with shock. Tim, however, just smiled. A calm, beatific smile that made my skin crawl. "It wasn't a burglar, Mom," I said, my voice flat and dead. I got to my feet, the plastic shard still clutched in my hand. It was him. My mother looked from me to Tim, her expression a mess of confusion. "What, Tim? What is he talking about?" Tim stepped forward, his hands clasped behind his back like a professor about to give a lecture. I did what had to be done. I cleansed this room of its worldly sinful attachments. It was an act of love. My dad finally found his voice. You threw his things out." "I liberated him," Tim corrected, his eyes shining with fervor. "I removed the idols, the distractions that were leading his soul down a path of corruption. The violent video games, the profane music, the symbols of vanity and lust." He gestured around the empty room as if presenting a masterpiece. I let out a harsh, broken laugh. "Vanity and lust? You mean my goddamn socks? My high school yearbooks?" I pointed to the shattered remains of my collectible. "Was a piece of sports history a symbol of lust, you psycho?" "It was an obsession," he shot back, his voice rising. "You valued it more than your own salvation?" "That was worth $1,200, Tim," I screamed, finally losing the last thread of my control. The sound echoed in the empty space. "Money is the root of all evil," he quoted serene. My mom turned on him, a rare flash of anger in her eyes. "Tim, this has gone too far. His clothes, his books, they were just things." "Mother," he said, his tone condescendingly gentle. "Material possessions that chained him to his flawed ways. I am trying to save him." That's when I saw it. The flicker in my parents' eyes. The shock was wearing off and the old programming was kicking in. My mom was already softening, looking for a way to smooth this over. My dad was receding, his gaze drifting to the floor, preparing to check out of the conflict entirely. They were going to let him get away with it. They were going to ask me times to be reasonable. To keep the peace. "No," I said, the word cutting through the air. I looked directly at my parents, ignoring my brother. "No more. You've been letting this happen for 3 years. You've watched him mock me, threaten me, and ambush my friends. You've chosen keeping the peace over protecting your son. Every single time." My mother started to cry. "Daniel, that's not fair." "Isn't it?" I took a step toward them, feeling a strange calm settle over me. "Here's the deal. You have one son in this house right now. You have to choose which one. Either he leaves, or I do. Right now. Don't be so dramatic, my father mumbled, unable to meet my eyes. Dramatic, I felt the plastic shard dig into my palm. He just destroyed thousands of dollars of my property to cure me of being gay. Your masterpiece just declared war on your sketch. So, you pick. Who are you keeping? The golden boy who thinks he's God, or the faggot who just lost everything? The silence was deafening. My mother sobbed, my father stared at his shoes, and Tim watched a smirk playing on his lips. He knew he'd already won. And in their silence, they made their choice. They always had. Okay, I said softly. I get it. I walked to the desk, picked up my laptop, and tucked it under my arm. It was the only thing I had left. I walked past my brother without a glance. I stopped in front of my parents. For the record, I said, my voice shaking, but clear, you didn't try. You just surrendered. I hope he's worth it. I walked down the stairs out the front door and didn't look back. I got in my car and drove straight to Mark's house. The next few weeks were a blur of crashing on a sofa, frantic apartment, hunting and fielding phone calls. My mother called every day, her voice thick with tears. Daniel, please just come home so we can talk this through, she pleaded during one call. Your father is a mess. You're tearing this family apart. The family was already torn, I said, leaning against the wall of the tiny studio apartment I'd just managed to rent. You just refused to see it. Is Tim still living there? A hesitant pause. Well, yes. This is his home, honey. Then there's nothing to talk about, I said. I will not set foot in that house as long as he is under its roof. That's the boundary. It's not negotiable. Then came the flying monkeys. My aunt called to tell me about the importance of filial piety and how I was causing my parents undue stress in their old age. My uncle left me a voicemail saying, whatever's going on, he's your brother and you need to be the bigger man and forgive him. They only got the sanitized version, of course. The story of the unfortunate disagreement. They didn't hear about the slashed soccer ball or the years of psychological torment. They just saw me as the aggressor, the one who abandoned his family. It was easier for them that way. I ignored them all and focused on rebuilding. I bought a cheap air mattress, a few plates from a thrift store, and started replacing my clothes piece by piece. My friends from the soccer team pitched in donating old furniture and helping me paint. For the first time, I was building a life that was entirely my own, free from the shadow of my brother's golden halo. I was broke and exhausted, but I was breathing freely. But one thing still gnawed at me. Justice. Forgiveness was off the table, but accountability was not. Tim had never faced a single real-world consequence for his actions. He lived in a bubble of parental protection and religious self-righteousness. It was time to pop it. I spent a weekend meticulously creating a spreadsheet. I researched the replacement cost of every single item he had thrown out, from my favorite pair of jeans to my textbooks. I found recent auction prices for similar signed memorabilia to put a value on the destroyed soccer ball. The total came to just over $4,000. Then I typed up a formal letter. It was a demand for payment for the willful destruction of private property. I cited the specific items, their values, and a final total of $4,150. I gave him 30 days to pay, after which I would be filing a claim in small claims court. I didn't add any emotion or anger. It was as cold and impersonal as a credit card bill. I printed it, put it in a crisp business envelope addressed to Mr. Timothy Miller, and sent it via certified mail to my parents' address. He would have to sign for it. They would all see it. A week later, my father called. It was the first time I'd heard from him since I left. I got a letter, he said, his voice strained. A legal letter. From you. To your brother. It's a bill, I corrected him. For the things he destroyed. Daniel, for God's sake, this is a family matter. You don't sue your own brother. He's not my brother anymore, Dad. He's just a guy who owes me $4,000. And if he doesn't pay, yes, I will take him to court. He's an adult. Let him face the consequences of his actions for once in his life. You never made him. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. I could hear my mother whispering frantically in the background. We'll pay it, my dad said, finally the words sounding like they were being dragged out of him. Don't take him to court. We'll give you the money. And there it was. The final predictable move. They would write a check. They would protect him, absorb the cost, and keep the peace. He would learn nothing. No, I said, and the word felt powerful. You don't get to buy him out of this. The bill is for him. The consequences are for him. I don't want your money. I want him to be held accountable. I'll see him in court. I hung up the phone before he could reply. Outside my window, the city lights were starting to flicker on. I was alone and I had a long fight ahead of me, but the air in my little apartment felt clean. It felt like my own.
Story 8.
My phone buzzed on the counter, rattling against a stack of mail I'd been meaning to open for a week. I glanced at the screen. It was my brother Bill. Asterisk. Can you come over? Need your help with my hinge. Asterisk. I sighed and wiped my hands on my jeans. A request for hinge help from Bill was like a sailor asking for navigation tips from a guy who'd already sunk 3 ships. This wasn't his first dating app rodeo. It was more like his 5th anniversary of getting bucked off the same bull over and over again. For years, it had been the same story. Tinder, Bumble, OkCupid, now Hinge. Each app was met with initial baffling optimism, followed by months of bitter complaints. These girls are all so superficial, he'd grumble over the phone, usually while I could hear my mom setting a plate of food down in front of him. They only want guys with 6-packs who are 6 feet tall. The irony was thick enough to choke on. Bill had a very specific list of requirements for his theoretical partner. He'd recited it to me once dead serious over Christmas dinner. She had to be under 30, he just turned 30 himself. She had to be thin, fit was the word he used, but we all knew what he meant. She needed a real career, preferably something that cleared 6 figures, no kids. And she had to be okay with the fact that his main hobbies were collecting Funko Pops and reaching new levels in Time's World of Warcraft asterisk. The woman he described was a high-powered, child-free, 20-something fitness model. The man she'd be dating was my brother Bill, a 30-year-old Walmart greeter who lived in our parents' basement, weighed close to 300 pounds, and considered a trip to the comic book store an adventure. The math just didn't add up. I'm on my way, I texted back, grabbing my keys. Maybe this time would be different. Maybe he was finally ready to listen. Hope is a stubborn, stupid thing. 20 minutes later, I pulled into my parents' driveway. The house looked exactly the same as it did when I'd moved out 10 years ago. Same manicured lawn, same slightly faded welcome mat. Mom opened the door before I could even knock. Francis, I'm so glad you're here, she said, pulling me into a hug that smelled like fabric softener and baked chicken. Billy's in his room. He's been so frustrated lately, poor thing. It's not easy for a good man to find someone these days. I bit my tongue. Yeah, Mom. The market's tough. She patted my arm, her face a mask of sincere concern. Well, you always know what to say. Go on, work your magic. I walked down the hall, the carpet muffling my footsteps. I passed the living room, still pristine with its plastic-covered couches, and descended the stairs to the basement. Bill's room was really the entire finished lower level. A massive TV dominated one wall, surrounded by shelves overflowing with video games and action figures still in their boxes. A pile of laundry was heaped on an old armchair. The whole place smelled faintly of stale pizza and Axe body spray. Bill was sitting at his computer desk scrolling intently on his phone. He didn't look up when I came in. "Hey," he grunted. "Hey." "You summoned me," I said, pulling up a rickety folding chair. "Yeah, look." He shoved his phone into my hand without making eye contact. "I'm getting 0 matches. I think my profile needs a woman's touch." I took the phone. The Hinge logo glowed at the top of the screen. I steeled myself and started to swipe through his profile. The first picture was a selfie taken in his car. The angle was from below, highlighting at least 3 chins. He was wearing wraparound gas station sunglasses, and the lighting was so bad he looked like a blurry cryptid. I swiped. The second picture was him with Mom at the Cheesecake Factory. Her arm was wrapped tightly around his shoulders, and she was beaming at the camera. Bill was giving a half-hearted thumbs up, a smear of what looked like whipped cream on his cheek. I swiped again. The third was a mirror selfie in the upstairs bathroom. The toilet seat was up in the background, and the counter was a disaster of toothpaste tubes, empty deodorant sticks, and a lone, sad-looking toothbrush. His expression was meant to be a smolder, but it came across as constipation. My heart sank. It was worse than I thought. Then I scrolled down to his bio and prompts. Asterisk, dating me is like times, finally finding a guy who will treat you right. Asterisk, my simple pleasures times video games, Marvel movies, and a girl with a good head on her shoulders. Asterisk, I'm looking for times, a partner in crime who takes care of herself. Gym rats, welcome. Must have a career and goals. No drama. It was a train wreck. A dumpster fire. A train wreck crashing into a dumpster fire. This wasn't a dating profile. It was a list of demands from a man who offered nothing on the list himself. He was fishing for a shark with a single Cheeto tied to a string. So he asked, finally looking at me. His face was full of genuine, hopeful expectation. What do you think? The picture's right. I told Mom that Cheesecake Factory 1 was bad. You think I should swap it out? I have one from Dave & Buster's, but my eyes are kind of closed. I looked from the phone in my hand to my brother's earnest, clueless face. He was waiting for me to suggest a better photo filter or a wittier bio line. He wanted me to rearrange the deck chairs on his Titanic of a dating life. And in that moment, I knew I couldn't do it. I couldn't lie to him anymore. I couldn't put a fresh coat of paint on a house with a rotten foundation. He saw the look on my face. His hopeful expression faltered. What is it that bad? I took a deep breath and slowly placed his phone face down on the desk between us, the soft click echoing in the quiet room. Bill, I said, my voice dangerously calm. This profile isn't the problem. His face crumpled. Not in anger, but in the theatrical, wounded way a child's face does right before a tantrum. What does that mean? He whispered, his bottom lip trembling. It means you don't need to overhaul your page, Bill. You need to overhaul your life. The words were out, and they hung in the stale, pizza-scented air between us. I couldn't take them back, and I didn't want to. You're looking for a woman who makes 6 figures, but you greet people for a living. You want a gym rat, but the heaviest thing you've lifted in the last year is a family-sized bag of Doritos. You want someone with their life together, but you're 30 years old and you live in your mom's basement. I leaned forward, my voice low but sharp. The woman you're describing, the woman on your ridiculous list, she would never ever swipe right on you, not in a million years. It's not the pictures. It's the product. For a second, there was dead silence. He just stared at me, his eyes wide, with a sort of horrified shock. Then the dam broke. You're so cruel, he sputtered, his face turning a blotchy red. Actual tears welled in his eyes and began to spill down his cheeks. I asked you for help. I asked for your help, and you're attacking me. He shot up from his chair, knocking it over with a clatter. You're just jealous. You've always been jealous of me because Mom loves me more. He didn't wait for a response. He turned and thundered up the stairs, his sobs echoing off the wood-paneled walls. I could hear his heavy footsteps stomp down the hall, followed by a muffled, wailing M.O.M. I just sat there, my heart hammering in my chest. I stared at the phone he'd left on the desk, its screen still glowing with his pathetic demands. A wave of nausea washed over me. Had I gone too far? I didn't have to wonder for long. Less than a minute later, I heard a different set of footsteps coming down the stairs. Faster, angrier. My mother appeared at the bottom of the staircase, her face a thundercloud of righteous fury. "Francesca Marie," she said, her voice dangerously tight. I hadn't been called by my full name since I'd broken her favorite ceramic bird in the 3rd grade. "What did you say to your brother?" "I told him the truth," I said, my own anger starting to simmer. "Something you should have done 20 years ago." "The truth?" she scoffed, marching over to the desk. She completely ignored the overturned chair. "He came to you because he was vulnerable. He was asking for help for your sisterly advice, and you tore him to shreds. He is up there crying his eyes out because of you. He's crying because a woman hasn't magically appeared who fits his laundry list of insane requirements, while he puts in zero effort to be a person worth dating." I stood up, my hands clenched into fists at my sides. "You're not helping him, Mom. You're enabling him. You cook for him. You do his laundry. You let him live here for free. You've turned him into a helpless child. He is a good man with a good heart," she shrieked, her voice cracking. "Life has been hard for him. It's not his fault. You have no idea how cruel the world is. And now his own sister is joining in on it. You should be ashamed of yourself." "I'm not ashamed." "You will go upstairs right now and you will apologize to your brother," she commanded, pointing a trembling finger toward the stairs. I stared at her. At her furious, loving, hopelessly blind face. And I just shook my head. No. Her jaw dropped. No. No. I'm not apologizing for telling the truth. I'm done. I'm done pretending this is normal. A strange calm washed over me. While she stood there, sputtering, I saw his phone still lying on the desk. An idea, cold and sharp and petty, bloomed in my mind. A final edit. A woman's touch. "Fine," she finally seethed. "Then get out of my house. And don't you dare come back until you're ready to say you're sorry to him." "Don't worry," I said, my voice flat. I walked toward the desk, and in one swift movement, I scooped up his phone. I just have to fix his profile first. Before she could react, I turned my back to her, and my fingers flew across the screen. I deleted every one of his self-aggrandizing, demanding prompts. I replaced them with a single brutal paragraph. Asterisk. My sister helped me with this bio. I'm 30. I live with my parents. I work at Walmart. My hobbies include video games and expecting a woman to be a supermodel with a PhD who is also inexplicably attracted to a man whose greatest accomplishment is his Funko Pop collection. My sister says I need to overhaul my life, but I think she's just cruel. Looking for someone to prove her wrong. No drama. Asterisk. I selected the worst picture of him, the triple chin car selfie, and made it his main photo. Then I tossed the phone back onto the desk. It clattered next to a half-empty can of Monster Energy. My mom stared at me, her mouth agape in pure, unadulterated horror. She didn't even have words. "There," I said. "Fixed." I walked past her and up the stairs, my head held high. I didn't look back. I got in my car and pulled out of the driveway, my phone already buzzing in the center console before I even reached the end of the street. I glanced down. A text from Mom, all in caps times. "How could you do that to him? You are a monster." Asterisk. It was immediately followed by one from Bill. Times, "I hate you, I hate you, I hate you." Asterisk. I drove. My hands were shaking and a hot tear of anger and hurt finally escaped and rolled down my cheek. Was I a monster? Maybe. Maybe the truth was a monstrous thing. When I got home, I opened a bottle of wine. My phone continued to light up with a relentless stream of vitriol. Accusations, insults, demands. They were a tag team of indignation, a two-person army of weaponized victimhood. I read them all one by one. I let their words wash over me, the poison sinking in. Then with a deep breath, I opened my contacts. I found Bill's name. I pressed block this caller. A small, satisfying sense of quiet settled in my gut. Then I found Mom's. I hesitated for only a second before doing the same. The screen went dark. The house was silent. And in that quiet, I finally felt something other than frustration and anger. It was a strange, sharp, lonely kind of peace. I poured myself another glass of wine. The market was tough, Mom had said. She had no idea.
Story 9.
23 years. We got married at 17 high school, sweethearts who actually made it. Or so I thought. We built a life, a home, raised 2 kids who were now mostly grown and out of the house. We were supposed to be heading into the good years, the easy years. Instead, I was living with a stranger. It started subtly. Girls' night became a weekly thing, then twice a week. Initially, I was all for it. Go have fun, you deserve it. But then the nights got later. She'd roll in at 2 a.m. smelling of wine and someone else's perfume, full of stories about Jen's horrible date or Sarah's new promotion. I'd pretend to be asleep listening to her stumble around in the dark, the rhythm of our life suddenly off-key. Then came the nights she didn't come home at all. The first time I panicked. I called her phone a dozen times. Straight to voicemail. I called Jen, who sounded groggy and confused. Mandy, no, I haven't seen her. We were supposed to get drinks, but she canceled. An hour later, Mandy texted me. Asterisk. Sorry, babe, phone died. Crashed at Sarah's, didn't want to wake you. See you in the morning, XO asterisk. My gut twisted. Sarah was single, lived in a downtown condo, and collected men like they were Funko Pops. I didn't like her. But I swallowed the knot in my throat. I didn't want to be the jealous, controlling husband. So I texted back a simple, okay, love you. This became the new pattern. Late nights with the girls. Last-minute sleepovers at Sarah's. She was a ghost in our house, a ghost in our bed. The distance between us grew until it felt like a physical presence, a cold wall of glass I couldn't break through. The breaking point, the moment my denial finally shattered, came on a Tuesday. A miserable rainy October Tuesday. Her alarm went off at 3:00 a.m. Not my alarm, hers. I jolted awake, my heart pounding in the pitch-black room. What's going on? I mumbled. Just getting up, she said, her voice oddly bright. She was already out of bed, heading for the bathroom. I propped myself up on my elbows, confused. Your shift isn't until 8. I know, she called out over the sound of the shower starting. Sarah and Jen and I are going for a walk before work. Getting our steps in. I lay back down, staring at the ceiling. A walk. At 3 a.m. The wind was howling outside and a steady, miserable rain was lashing against the window. I could hear it, a constant drumming that said, Times stay in bed, asterisk. But she was in the bathroom blow-drying her hair. Then I could smell her hairspray, then her perfume. She came back into the bedroom, fully dressed in nice jeans, a sweater, and her good waterproof jacket. Her makeup was done. Full foundation mascara, the works. You're awfully dressed up for a walk in the rain, I said, keeping my voice flat. She didn't miss a beat. You know, Sarah. We always grab coffee after. Gotta look presentable. She leaned down, gave me a quick cold peck on the cheek, and grabbed her purse. Don't wait up. The phrase hung in the air. Long after the front door clicked shut. Asterisk. Don't wait up. Asterisk. It was 3:30 inches the morning. I couldn't sleep. I just lay there, the gears in my head grinding, trying to make the pieces fit. They wouldn't. The story was absurd. 3 women in their 40s getting up in the middle of the night to go for a walk in a storm dressed for a brunch date? It was a lie. A clumsy, insulting lie. But what was the truth? I must have finally drifted off because I woke up to my own alarm at 6. The house was empty and silent, save for the rain. The space next to me in the bed was cold. I went through the motions: shower, coffee, toast, all while a cold dread solidified in my stomach. I needed to haul some old junk to the dump that day, and my sedan wasn't going to cut it. I needed her truck. Her keys were still on the hook by the door, right where she always left them. I grabbed them, figuring I'd just call and let her know. I could swing by her work and drop them off later. I walked outside into the gray, wet morning and saw my sedan parked in its usual spot. But her big, expensive F-150, her pride and joy, wasn't there. The space where she always parked it was empty. My blood went cold. She'd left before 3:30 a.m. She said she was going for a walk. But she took her truck? I pulled out my phone, my thumb hovering over her name. My heart was a drum against my ribs. I pressed the call button. It rang twice, then she picked up her voice, breathless and high-pitched. "Hey, everything. Okay," she chirped. "Yeah, fine," I said, my voice like gravel. "Listen, I need to borrow your truck to run to the dump. I'm just going to grab your keys and..." "Oh." The sound was sharp, panicked. "You can't." "I have it." I stared at the empty space in the driveway. The rain dripped from the eaves of the house. "You have it. Where?" "On my walk," she said a little too loud. We drove to the trailhead at the park to start from there." The park. The park was less than a mile from our house. You could walk to the trailhead in 10 minutes. My mind was racing, connecting dots I hadn't wanted to see. "You drove your truck," I said slowly, to go on a walk. "In the pouring rain." "Yeah." "It's great, so refreshing," she insisted. I could hear something in the background. Not wind. Not rain. It sounded like a TV. A low murmur of voices from a morning news show. My whole body went numb. I knew. In that single sickening moment, I knew everything. The lie was so clear, so transparent, it was like she wasn't even trying anymore. "Okay," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "Okay, Mandy." "Great, I gotta go, the girls are waiting." "Love you," she chirped, and the line went dead. I stood in the driveway, the rain soaking into my hair, my shirt. I looked at her keys in my hand. Then I looked at the empty spot where her truck was supposed to be. She didn't take her keys. She had a second set, a set I didn't know about. I walked back inside the cold dread in my stomach, now a solid block of ice. I sat at the kitchen table, her keys clutched in my fist, and I watched the clock on the stove. 7:15 a.m. She'd be home soon to shower and change for her 8 a.m. shift. She'd walk in thinking I'd bought a ridiculous story, that I was the same clueless, trusting husband I'd always been. But he was gone. He'd died somewhere between the 3 a.m. alarm and the phantom truck. A new man was sitting at this table. A man who had been played for a fool for the last time. The only question left was what I was going to do about it. And as I heard the garage door begin to rumble open, I knew she was about to find out. The garage door whirred shut, and a moment later the door to the kitchen opened. Mandy walked in, shaking rain from her jacket. She was smiling, a practiced bright smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Morning, babe, you're up early," she said, kicking off her boots. I didn't move from my chair. I just watched her. The keys were in my hand, and I let them clink against the wooden table. Her eyes flickered to the sound, and her smile faltered for a fraction of a second. "You left your keys," I said. My voice was flat. Empty. Oh, silly me, she laughed a nervous, high-pitched sound. Must have grabbed my spare set by mistake. The spare set I didn't know you had, I said. It wasn't a question. She stopped her jacket halfway off. What's this about, Luke? Let me see your phone, Mandy. Her face hardened. The fake brightness vanished, replaced by a defensive glare. Why? So you can go through my things like some kind of paranoid freak. Just show me the phone. No, she snapped. Not until you show me yours. It's only fair. It was a pathetic attempt at deflection, a classic cheater's gambit. Fine. I unlocked my phone and slid it across the table. Knock yourself out. You've got the password. Nothing's changed. She stared at it, her bluff called. She didn't pick it up. Her eyes darted around the room, looking for an escape she couldn't find. Your turn, I said, holding out my hand. Her jaw tightened. Reluctantly, she pulled her phone from her purse and handed it to me. I unlocked it. I knew her password too. I went straight to her texts. The conversation at the top was with Sarah. Below that, Jen? Below that, our daughter. I scrolled and scrolled. Nothing. The entire thread with him, whoever he was, had been wiped. A clean, deliberate deletion. She watched me, a smug little smirk playing on her lips. Find what you were looking for, detective. I ignored her. I went to her recent calls. There was a number there dialed last night and again this morning. No name attached. I memorized it. Then I set her phone down and picked up my own. I pulled up the browser, logged into our phone provider's website, and navigated to the account usage page. I'd done it an hour ago, but I wanted her to see. I selected her line. I clicked on text message details. A log appeared on the screen, a list of every number she had texted in the last 30 days. I turned the phone around so she could see the screen. I pointed to the number from her recent calls. Who's this? She squinted at it. I don't know. A coworker, probably. A coworker you texted 926 times this month, I said, my voice dangerously low. A coworker you were texting at 3:15 this morning while you were supposedly on a walk in the park, a walk you took your truck on. The color drained from her face. She looked from my phone screen to my eyes, and for the first time she looked terrified. She saw the man who had been gone for months. The man she was married to. The man she'd just broken. Luke, it's not what you think, she stammered. Then what is it, Mandy? I demanded, my voice finally cracking with the weight of it all. Tell me the truth. Just for once, tell me the goddamn truth. She just stared at me, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. No words came out. The lies had run out. And in her silence, I got my answer. It was a roar that filled the entire house. I stood up, the chair scraped loudly against the floor. I'm done. I walked past her, up the stairs to our bedroom. I pulled my old duffel bag from the top of the closet and started pulling clothes from my drawers, stuffing them in without folding. T-shirts, jeans, socks. I didn't cry. I didn't feel rage. I felt nothing. A vast, hollow emptiness where 23 years of my life used to be. She followed me into the room. What are you doing, Luke? Don't do this. We can talk about this. I zipped the bag and slung it over my shoulder. I walked to my nightstand and picked up my wallet and my keys. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw a complete stranger. There's nothing to talk about, I said. And I walked out. The first few days were a blur of cheap motel rooms and rage. But the rage burned itself out, leaving behind a cold, hard clarity. The pain was still there, a physical ache in my chest, but I shoved it into a box. It was fuel now. I called the best divorce lawyer in the city. I sat in his plush office and laid out the whole pathetic story. He listened patiently, then looked at the financial statements I'd brought. "She can't afford that house on her salary," he said, tapping a pen on the mortgage statement. "Or the truck. You've been carrying the load for a decade. You're in a much stronger position than you think." He gave me a script. File first. Demand the house be sold and the equity split. Offer her a fair buyout for her half, but set a firm deadline. No negotiations. No emotional appeals. The pick-me dance, the pathetic pleading of a betrayed spouse begging their partner to choose them. I rejected it completely. When Mandy's texts started flooding in times, "I miss you," I made a terrible mistake. "Please, let's work this out," times, I replied with a single brutal sentence my lawyer had drafted. Asterisk. Please direct all future communication regarding the divorce proceedings to my attorney. Asterisk. I gray-rocked her into oblivion. I blocked her on social media. I communicated only through email and only about the kids. The woman I had loved for more than half my life ceased to exist. In her place was an opponent in a legal negotiation. 2 weeks later, I moved into a small, clean, 2-bedroom apartment. The first night surrounded by boxes, the silence was deafening. But by the third night, it sounded like peace. I bought a new coffee maker. I bought sheets that weren't part of a matching set she'd picked out. I started to build a life that was just mine. My kids, both in their late teens, handled it better than I expected. They weren't blind. They saw her late nights, her distance. They were angry at her, but they rallied around me. We started having weekly dinners at my new place, ordering pizza and talking more than we had in years. I started saying yes to things. A weekend fishing trip with my brother. A concert with an old college buddy. I even went on a few dates, awkward and strange at first, but it was a reminder that my life wasn't over. It was just different. I started planning a bucket list trip to see the national parks out west, something Mandy had always scoffed at as too rustic. For the first time in years, I felt a spark of genuine excitement for the future. Meanwhile, points began its slow, methodical work. The first domino to fall was the truck. Without my income covering the mortgage and utilities, she couldn't make the $800 monthly payment. I got a text from my son one day, "Time's mom's truck is gone." A tow truck just took it. Asterisk, she'd had to surrender it to the bank. Next was her job. Her affair partner was her direct supervisor. When I filed for divorce, citing adultery, the news spread through their office like wildfire. Their discreet relationship became a public spectacle. An HR investigation was launched. He was fired for violating company policy. 2 weeks later, she was let go for performance-related issues. No one wanted to work with her. The final blow was the house. She fought tooth and nail to keep it. She tried to get a new mortgage, but without a job and with a mountain of debt, no bank would touch her. The court-ordered deadline came and went. A for sale sign went up in the yard of the home where we'd raised our children. I drove by one last time the day before the closing. The lawn was overgrown, the flower beds choked with weeds. It looked sad and abandoned. I felt a pang of something not for her, but for the life that had died there. The ghost of the happy family we once were. But it was just a pang. It passed. I put the car in drive and pulled away without looking back. I had a map spread out on my passenger seat, a route plan through Utah and Arizona. My future was an open road. Hers was a house full of boxes and bad decisions. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt completely, blessedly free.
Story Teen.
I met Daniel where all good girls in my town met their future husbands. the 1030 a.m. service at Grace Chapel. He was new, visiting with his cousin, and he had that clean-cut, earnest look I was raised to believe was the hallmark of a God-fearing man. He had kind eyes and a firm handshake. And when he said he was looking for a church home, a little voice in my head whispered times, "This is it. This is him." Asterisk. Our first date was for coffee after service the following Sunday. He was magnetic. He talked about his mission trip to Guatemala, his volunteer work at the youth center, and his desire for a family built on a foundation of faith. The words poured out of him, a perfect script of everything I'd ever prayed for. The most important thing to me, he said, leaning forward over his lukewarm latte, is purity. Honoring God with our bodies and our relationship until we're married. I felt a wave of relief so powerful it almost knocked me over. I dated guys who'd pushed, who'd wheedled, who'd made me feel like an old-fashioned prude for holding on to my convictions. But Daniel got it. He didn't just accept my boundaries, he shared them. He was in a word safe. The courtship was a whirlwind. It was 9 months of hand-holding during movies, chaste kisses on my front porch, and long talks about the future. We planned our dream home, named our hypothetical children 2 boys, 1 girl, and read devotionals together over the phone. He was everything. Respectful, charming, and deeply spiritual. My parents adored him. My friends were jealous. I was floating. When he got down on one knee in the middle of the town square, a tiny velvet box in his hand, I didn't hesitate. Saying yes was the easiest decision I'd ever made. Our wedding was small and quaint, exactly what I wanted. We held it in the little chapel where we met, surrounded by our closest family and friends. I remember the scent of the white roses on the altar, and the way the afternoon light streamed through the stained glass windows, painting us in jewels. When Daniel slid the simple gold band onto my finger, his hands were steady. He looked into my eyes and promised before God to love and cherish me in sickness and in health for the rest of his days. I believed him. I believed every single word. The bliss was intoxicating. We drove away from the reception with tin cans clattering behind our car, my head on his shoulder, a future as bright and shiny as my new ring stretching out before us. We were starting our honeymoon with a road trip down the coast, a week of charming inns, scenic overlooks, and finally being truly together. The first few days were a dream. We were clumsy and shy, and everything I'd imagined my first time would be sweet and sacred. We drove with the windows down, singing along to the radio, stopping at every kitschy roadside attraction we saw. On day 3, we pulled over at a viewpoint overlooking the ocean. The cliffs dropped dramatically into the churning blue water below, and the wind whipped my hair across my face. Daniel grabbed his phone. "Stay right there," he commanded, a wide grin on his face. "You look beautiful." He snapped a few pictures, the sound of the digital shutter lost in the roar of the waves. I felt a surge of pure, unadulterated happiness. I was a wife. His wife. "Oh, let me see," I said, running over and wrapping my arms around his waist. He handed me the phone without a second thought. I was smiling in the picture, my eyes squinting against the sun, the ocean a perfect backdrop. He'd captured the moment perfectly. He'd captured times me, times perfectly. I was about to tell him so when the screen lit up with a notification banner at the top. An unsaved number. The text was short. Asterisk. Thinking about last night. Can't wait for you to be home. Asterisk. My blood went cold. My smile froze on my face. It was probably just spam. A wrong number. It had to be. "Everything okay?" Daniel asked. He was leaning against the guardrail, looking out at the water, his back to me. "Yeah, fine." I managed to choke out my voice thin. "Just admiring your photography skills." He chuckled, oblivious. My thumb hovered over the message app icon. My heart was a frantic drum against my ribs. Asterisk. Don't do it, Angela. Trust your husband. Don't be that wife. Asterisk. But I couldn't stop myself. My thumb tapped the green icon. The text was at the top of a long, long thread. I tapped on it. The contact was just a string of numbers, no name. My eyes scanned the last few messages, my brain struggling to process what I was seeing. My breath hitched. Her times. Have the best time with your wife. Just remember who was keeping your bed warm the night before. Asterisk. Him times. Always. You know you're the one. Asterisk. Her times. Prove it when you get back. Asterisk. There were pictures. Explicit pictures. Things I'd never even considered doing, let alone with someone I wasn't married to. Pictures of her. Pictures of him. Pictures of them together. I started scrolling up, a desperate, sick feeling churning in my stomach. I scrolled past yesterday. Past our wedding day. Past the week before. The month before. The conversations went back and back and back. 9 months. The entire time I had known him. He was sleeping with her when he asked me to be his girlfriend. He was sleeping with her when he told me he loved me. He was sleeping with her the day he bought my engagement ring. He was sleeping with her the night before he stood at the altar and promised to forsake all others. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. I felt the bile rise in my throat. Every chaste kiss, every prayer we'd said together, every promise of purity, it was all a lie. A sick, elaborate performance. I wasn't his respected, cherished bride. I was his gullible, religious cover story. I scrolled and scrolled, a spectator to my own destruction, until I saw it. A text from Daniel sent from our rehearsal dinner while I was in the bathroom. Asterisk. Wish you were here instead. Can't wait to see you tonight. Asterisk. I stopped breathing. He left the dinner early. He told me he was feeling overwhelmed and needed to get a good night's sleep before the big day. I'd kissed his forehead and told him I understood. I'd felt a rush of love for my sensitive, thoughtful fiancé. He hadn't gone home to sleep. He'd gone to her. The phone felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I looked up from the screen, my vision blurry with tears I hadn't realized were falling. The world tilted on its axis, the beautiful ocean view turning into a nauseating, spinning vortex. I heard the crunch of gravel behind me. Ready to head to the hotel, baby, Daniel's voice was cheerful light. He wrapped his arms around me from behind, pressing a kiss to the top of my head. I'm starving. I just stood there, paralyzed, his phone gripped tight in my hand, its screen a glowing testament to the ruins of my entire life. His arms felt like a cage. My body went rigid. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only feel the sickening warmth of his hands on the skin of my arms. He was touching me, kissing my hair, while the proof of his monstrous betrayal was burning a hole in my hand. I twisted out of his embrace, stumbling back a step. I held up the phone. The screen was still lit up, a neon sign broadcasting my ruin. His smile vanished. Angela, what? Don't, I whispered. The word came out like broken glass. I shoved the phone at his chest and turned walking blindly toward the car. The drive to the hotel was 20 minutes of suffocating silence. He kept opening his mouth to speak, then closing it. I stared out the passenger window, watching the postcard-perfect scenery blur into a smear of green and blue. Every tree, every crashing wave felt like a personal insult. How dare the world be beautiful when mine had just ended? The hotel room was disgustingly romantic. A 4-poster bed strewn with rose petals, a bottle of cheap champagne chilling in a bucket. A honeymoon suite. I wanted to set it on fire. Daniel closed the door behind us, the click of the lock echoing in the room. Baby, you have to let me explain. Explain what I spun to face him, my voice finally finding its volume. Explain the 9 months of text, the pictures. Or should we start with the night before our wedding? Explain how you left our rehearsal dinner to go sleep with her. The color drained from his face. He looked like I'd physically struck him. Good. It's not what it looks like, he stammered, the classic pathetic defense of a guilty man. It looks like you're a liar, I spat. It looks like you stood in a church in front of God and my family and made a mockery of me. Of everything I believe in. All that talk about purity, honoring God, was that all just a performance? Was I just the religious idiot you could trick into playing the part of your wife? He sank onto the edge of the bed, his head in his hands. I was going to end it, I swear. After we got married, it was going to be over. Oh, how noble of you, I laughed a harsh, ugly sound. You were going to grant me the honor of being your only woman times after times you'd already sealed the deal. After I was legally and spiritually trapped. It's not like that. I love you. No, you don't, I said, the realization hitting me with the force of a physical blow. You don't love me. You love the idea of me. The good Christian girl who would give you the perfect-looking life while you did whatever you wanted on the side. I walked over to him, my whole body trembling with a rage I didn't know I was capable of. Get your phone. He looked up, confused. What? Get your phone, I repeated through clenched teeth. You were going to end it. Fine. End it. Right now. In front of me. He hesitated. That hesitation told me everything I needed to know. It wasn't over. It was never going to be over. Do it, I commanded. With shaking hands, he pulled the phone from his pocket. He unlocked it and opened the message thread. I stood over his shoulder watching. His thumbs hovered over the keyboard. Tell her it's over, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. Tell her you're married and you can't ever see her again. He typed deleted and typed again. Finally, he wrote times. I can't do this anymore. I'm married. Asterisk. He hit send. We both watched the screen waiting. The three little dots appeared almost immediately. My stomach churned. Her reply was instantaneous. Asterisk. What the hell are you talking about, married? You were with me 2 nights ago. Asterisk. There it was. The final confirmation. The other nail in the coffin of my 9-month fairy tale. She was just as blindsided as I was. He hadn't just lied to me, he had lied to everyone. I backed away from him, a cold, hollow feeling spreading through my chest. Divorce. The word screamed in my head. A scarlet letter in the world I came from. A public failure. A sin. Asterisk. What God has joined together, let no one separate. Asterisk. The verse was branded on my soul. Daniel saw the conflict on my face. He saw his opening. We can fix this, Angie, he said, his voice turning soft and pleading. He stood up, trying to take my hands. I snatched them away. We made a covenant. Before God. For better or for worse. This is the worse. We just have to work through it. God hates divorce. He used my own faith as a weapon, twisting the blade. And I stranded 1,000 miles from home, humiliated and utterly broken, let him. I had no friends here. No family. No money of my own. All I had were my vows. And they felt like a life sentence. That was the end of our honeymoon and the beginning of our marriage. The next 4 years were a masterclass in misery. The charming, God-fearing man I'd fallen for was gone, replaced by a sullen, cruel stranger. He never hit me, but his words left bruises no one could see. I was stupid. I was needy. I was no fun. I was lucky he'd even bothered to stay with me after I'd violated his privacy and ruined our honeymoon. He held that over my head like a guillotine. I withered. I lost weight. I stopped talking to my family much because I couldn't bear to lie anymore, and I was too ashamed to tell the truth. Grace Chapel became a place of judgment where I felt every eye on my hollow cheeks and joyless smile. the change happened slowly. I started visiting a different church on the other side of town, a little community church with a woman pastor and a killer coffee hour. I didn't talk to anyone for months, just sat in the back. But then a woman named Sarah invited me to her book club. I went. And for the first time in years, I talked to people who didn't know Daniel, who didn't see me as half of a broken whole. They just saw me. They made me laugh. They reminded me what friendship felt like. With their support, a little bit of my spine grew back. It started with small things. Daniel came home one night and sneered at the dinner I'd made. "Is this all there is?" he asked, poking at a piece of chicken. The old me would have apologized and offered to make something else. The new me looked him dead in the eye. "If you don't like it, feel free to make your own dinner." He was so stunned he didn't speak for the rest of the evening. It felt like a superpower. I started saying no to things I didn't want to do. I started making plans with my friends from the new church without asking his permission. He hated it. The docile, controllable wife he'd curated was disappearing, and he didn't know how to handle it. A man like Daniel can't stand a woman he can't control. One Tuesday afternoon, I came home from having coffee with Sarah to find a suitcase by the door. "I can't do this anymore," he said, not looking at me. "You're not the woman I married." "You're right," I said, a wave of profound, earth-shattering relief washing over me. "I'm not." He left. Just like that. 3 months later, my phone buzzed with a notification. It was a picture posted by one of his cousins. It was Daniel on one knee, proposing to a woman with a perfectly round pregnant belly. The caption read, "Times?" She said yes. "Can't wait to welcome another member to the family?" Asterisk. I looked at the picture. I looked at the happy, smiling couple about to start their family on a foundation of lies, just like we had. But instead of the gut-wrenching pain I expected, I felt nothing. Just a quiet click as the last lock on my cage sprang open. His divorce lawyer called mine the next day to expedite the proceedings. Today I have my own small apartment, a job I love, and friends who feel more like family than my actual family ever did. I'm working on myself. I'm healing. And sometimes late at night I think about that girl standing on the cliff, her whole world crumbling. I wish I could tell her that the worst day of her life was actually the first day of her freedom. Daniel thought leaving me was his final act of punishment. He had no idea it was the greatest gift he ever could have given me. I have never ever been happier. Story 11. I love my lawn. That probably sounds pathetic, but it's the truth. It's my one patch of zen in a world of conference calls and toddler tantrums. It's green, it's thick, it's meticulously edged. My 2 kids, a 5-year-old boy and a 3-year-old girl, tumble on it like it's a safety mat. It's my pride. Or at least it was. The problem lives in my basement. My mother-in-law, Carol. She moved in 3 years ago after her husband passed. The deal was simple. She gets the basement suite rent-free, and in return she helps with the kids while my wife and I work. On paper, it's a perfect arrangement. In reality, it's a slow-motion demolition of my property and my sanity. The first incident was the cedars. I planted a row of them along the back fence 5 years ago. They'd finally grown into a beautiful, dense privacy screen. One Saturday I came out to find them sculpted. She'd taken shears to them, carving them into these bizarre, lumpy poodle shapes. They needed some style, she'd announced, beaming. I just stared, speechless. My lush natural wall was gone, replaced by something you'd see at a Tim Burton-themed mini-golf course. My wife, Sarah, just shrugged. She's trying to help Terry. It's not a big deal. The next year, it was the hedge. We have a massive laurel hedge separating our property from the neighbors. It's a beast to maintain, but it's worth it. Carol decided the path to the side gate was too long. It required walking an extra 15 feet around the hedge. So she took a saw and hacked a tunnel straight through the middle of it. a jagged, ugly wound right in the heart of a 30-year-old plant. When I confronted her, she looked at me like I was insane. "It's more efficient," she said, as if that explained everything. The hedge never recovered. It's still got a big brown dead patch that screams shortcut. Sarah's response: "Mom's getting older. It's easier for her. Let it go." But the real masterpiece, the project that set the stage for this year's disaster, was the Great Garden Heist. I had a small decorative perennial garden near the back patio. Nothing fancy, just some hostas, black-eyed Susans, a few lavender plants. It was my little spot of color. I came home from a business trip to find it gone. Every single plant had been ripped out and tossed in the compost. In its place were 3 rows of tomato stakes and some wilting lettuce. Carol had decided my flower garden was a waste of good sun. She needed more room for her vegetables. I lost it. I yelled. I asked her what gave her the right to just tear up my yard. She just folded her arms. "We need fresh tomatoes, not useless flowers." Sarah pulled me inside. "She's contributing. She's growing food for our family. You're getting upset over a few weeds." They weren't weeds. They were my plants in my garden in my yard. But to Sarah, I was the bad guy for not appreciating her mother's contribution. I was outnumbered. I dropped it. The tomatoes were mediocre. That was last summer. I spent the whole winter stewing, but also hoping. Maybe, just maybe, she had finally run out of things to destroy. Then the first warm Saturday of spring arrived. The snow had melted, the air was crisp. I was practically vibrating with excitement. Time to get the yard back in shape. I pulled the cover off the mower, checked the oil, filled the gas. My son Leo was buzzing around me. "Can I help Daddy?" "You bet, buddy. You can be my supervisor." I pulled the cord. The engine roared to life. It was the best sound in the world. I started on the first pass along the back of the house. A long, satisfying stripe of freshly cut grass appearing behind me. It felt good. It felt right. As I rounded the corner of the patio, the engine sputtered. Then came a sound that made my blood run cold. Asterisk. Crunch. Screech. Whomp. Asterisk. A shower of sparks flew out from under the mower deck. The engine died with a shudder. I froze, my hands tingling from the vibration. "Son of a bitch," I muttered. I tilted the mower on its side. The blade which I had just sharpened last fall was a disaster. A huge, jagged chunk was missing from the cutting edge, the metal warped and bent. Something had annihilated it. I looked down at the lawn to see what I'd hit, and that's when I saw it. It was a ramp. A crude, ugly ramp made of dirt and gravel leading from the lawn up to the 2-inch lip of the concrete patio. It was about 3 feet wide and packed down hard. The grass underneath my perfect green grass was a dead yellow smear. Loose gravel was scattered all over the surrounding lawn, a minefield of blade-destroying rocks. My son's little red ride-on car was parked at the top of it. I knelt down and poked the ramp. It wasn't just dirt. It was compacted like concrete. She must have spent hours piling it on, tamping it down, watering it into a solid mass. All so Leo could drive his plastic car onto the patio without navigating a 2-inch bump. A bump he could have easily bypassed by just driving 10 feet to the left, where the patio meets the walkway at ground level. Rage hot and pure washed over me. This wasn't helping. This was malicious. It was a flag planted in the middle of my sanctuary, a declaration that nothing I owned was truly mine. I spent the next 4 hours in a silent fury. I got a shovel and a wheelbarrow. The ramp didn't want to give up. I had to hack at it, breaking up the concrete like soil chunk by chunk. Underneath the ground was a soulless, compacted wasteland. I shoveled the whole mess out, raked the area until my back screamed, picking out every last piece of gravel by hand. Then I went to the garage, got the bags of topsoil and grass seed I'd bought for spring overseeding, and carefully rebuilt the patch. I leveled it, seeded it, fertilized it, and watered it gently. By the time the sun started to dip, it was done. A perfect dark brown rectangle of fresh soil sat where the ramp had been. Order was restored. I stood there leaning on the rake, exhausted but satisfied. I had taken back my lawn. I heard the basement door slide open behind me. I didn't turn around. I just kept admiring my work. The footsteps stopped a few feet away. "What did you do?" Carol's voice was sharp accusatory. I took a deep breath, then slowly turned to face her. Her arms were crossed, her face a mask of indignation. "I fixed it," I said, keeping my voice level. "You ruined it," she snapped. "That was for Leo. He needs his ramp. You're going to build it back, right now." I laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. It was sharp and brittle, the noise a man makes when he's reached the absolute end of his rope. "Build it back," I repeated, my voice dangerously low. "Carol, you destroyed my lawnmower. You spent hours compacting soil over my grass, killing it for a problem that didn't exist." "Leo couldn't get his car up," she insisted, jabbing a finger toward the patio. My composure snapped. I marched over to the little red plastic car, grabbed it by its steering wheel, and dragged it off the patio. I pushed it across the grass for 10 feet, to where the concrete walkway meets the patio flush with the ground. Then with one hand, I easily rolled it onto the concrete. I turned back to her, spreading my arms. "See? Problem solved. No destruction necessary. This took me 5 seconds. Your ramp took you hours and cost me a $100 mower blade and a patch of my lawn." Her face went from indignant to thunderous. She didn't see logic. She saw defiance. She saw me undoing her work. She gave a disgusted ch sound, spun on her heel, and stormed back to the basement, slamming the sliding door so hard the glass rattled. I knew what was coming next. I had about 90 seconds. I was still standing there, hands on my hips, breathing hard, when the back door of the house opened. Sarah stepped out, phone pressed to her ear. She was listening, her expression hardening with every word Carol poured into her head. She hung up and fixed me with a glare that could melt steel. "What is wrong with you?" she asked, her voice laced with ice. "What's wrong with times meet times? Sarah, look at this." I gestured at the fresh patch of soil, the scattered gravel. I hadn't managed to find the deep gouge in the lawn where the mower had died. "She built a damn construction project on our lawn. She broke my mower." "My mother was building something for our son," she said, walking toward me. "She was trying to be helpful, and you just tore it down and screamed at her." I didn't scream. I shot back, my voice rising. I showed her the perfectly good path that already exists. This was needless destruction, Sarah. Just like the cedars, just like the hedge, just like my flower garden. When does it stop? When does this become my time's house again? It's her house, too. The words hit me like a physical blow. I stared at her, dumbfounded. What? She lives in the basement. We own the house. I pay the mortgage. I maintain the yard. And she provides full-time childcare, so we don't have to pay a fortune for daycare, Sarah shot back. That gives her a say. This is her home, not just a room you let her use. She has the right to feel comfortable here. She has the right to do projects. I felt a dizzying sense of unreality. We were standing in the middle of the yard I spent every weekend caring for, and my wife was telling me her mother had the right to demolish it at will. A say is, "Hey Terry, I think it would be nice if we built a little ramp for Leo." Not taking a shovel and gravel and unilaterally deciding to pave over the lawn, she doesn't have the right to destroy our property. Sarah. Then she said it. The sentence that vaporized whatever ground I thought I was standing on. She crossed her arms, mirroring her mother perfectly, and said with chilling finality, "She has the right to do whatever she wants to our property. She lives here." I just stared. I had nothing. No response. No argument. The logic was so warped, so completely insane that I couldn't even begin to formulate a reply. It was like arguing with someone who insisted the sky was green. My wife, my partner, the person who was supposed to be in my corner, was standing in front of me telling me I was a tenant in my own home. And the landlord was Carol. I turned away from her. I couldn't even look at her. I walked to the garage, grabbed a beer from the old fridge, and just sat on a stool in the silence, surrounded by the smell of cut grass and gasoline. I stayed there until the sun went down. Later that night, the house was quiet. The kids were in bed. I was in the living room pretending to watch TV. Sarah came and stood in the doorway, refusing to sit next to me. I talked to my mom, she said. Her tone wasn't conciliatory. It was the voice of a messenger. I didn't say anything. I just kept my eyes on the screen. She's very upset. She feels completely disrespected and unappreciated. She said that if you're going to criticize everything she does to try and help, then maybe you should see how you like it without her help. I muted the TV and finally looked at her. What does that mean? It means if you don't like her methods, you can watch the kids yourself, Sarah said flatly. You can pay for daycare. But she's not going to be treated like a child in her own home and get screamed at for building a ramp for her grandson. There it was, the checkmate. They had tied her free childcare, the cornerstone of our family's finances, to her absolute unquestionable right to hack, dig, and pave any part of my property she saw fit. Objecting to the destruction of my yard was now an attack on her role as a grandmother. Complaining about a broken lawnmower meant I didn't appreciate her watching our children. I felt a profound, bottomless exhaustion. This wasn't a fight I could win. I was being outmaneuvered by a united front that operated on an emotional logic I couldn't penetrate. My enemy wasn't the woman in the basement who butchered my hedges. It was the woman standing in my living room delivering ultimatums on her behalf. So, I'm just supposed to let her do whatever she wants, no boundaries, no respect for my work, my things. I asked, my voice barely a whisper. You need to apologize to her, Sarah said, ignoring my question entirely. And you need to get over your obsession with a stupid lawn. It's not as important as family. She turned and walked to our bedroom without another word. I sat there in the dark, the silent television flickering. Family. This didn't feel like family. It felt like I was an outsider, a groundskeeper whose duties and opinions were irrelevant. The lawn wasn't the point. It was the only thing left that was mine, and they were taking that too. I opened my laptop. My hands were trembling slightly as I navigated to the Reddit page. Am I the asshole? I had to know. I had to ask someone outside this crazy bubble if I was the one who had lost his mind. I started to type. Am I the bad guy for getting angry at my MIL, for destroying my lawn?